I'm really excited about this one. I'm just happy that this is his theme music. This is like touching my soul right here.
I like it.
I like it. So the first question that I have to ask, are you a real doctor or are you just a meme doctor?
I like to pretend doctor online. That's actually my brother and I get in, not fights. We actually have a good joke running. And my wife, too, because she's a real doctor as well. She's a neonatologist at Camp Lejeune, but my brother's an endocrinologist. They both see people in person. But I have patients online.
You just play a doctor on the internet.
I do a lot of, I do a lot of memes and but I made a tweet the other day, sing like nobody's listening, dance like nobody's watching. And then I was like, drink coffee like you're not going to shit your pants in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And my brother's like, man, you're always messing around. And then someone responded that.
So he actually gives you shit about.
Yeah, we laugh. We joke about it, but he knows that I do, pretty well for not actually going into a clinic. But
right.
Someone responded, said, you know what? For years I've been battling digestion issues, and I had no idea why. I cut out coffee because of this stupid tweet, and I think you saved my life, basically.
by joking.
By joking. So, and he was like, you're such an idiot, but you actually helped this person one tweet and meme at a time. And so, it's just different, obviously. I enjoy it, though. So I pretend that I'm not a real doctor, but I am. I am technically a real board-certified physician.
I think we need more doctors like this, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know what my favorite meme is?
Which one?
The peanut butter and jelly one.
The one where it's like this huge, huge sandwich.
Like, I don't understand why I'm gaining weight.
Yeah, that's a good. That one does well. I did one the other day. It was RP made it, but if you ever want to be out of touch, I think you basically measure a serving of peanut butter.
Yeah.
But I like the sandwich one better. Though.
Yeah,
I think it does better.
That's because that's how Nick's peanut butter and jelly sandwiches used to look.
Exactly. Until I had to start tracking them. I was like, holy shit.
Just gonna spread it thinly now.
No, and then when I met her, she made me a peanut butter and jelly, and I almost wanted to throw it on the ground. I was like, what is this?
What'd she make it?
But it was like the peanut butter didn't even go to the edges, and it probably wasn't even a tablespoon. It was just like this thin thing, and I'm like, this is not a peanut butter and jelly.
I mean, that's a budget peanut butter and jelly.
I was like, we're not poor anymore, babe. Anyways.
Bump those numbers up.
So, the none other than Dr. Spencer NADOLSKY. Did I say that right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Some people NADOLSKY. I don't know. Honestly, I don't. I say it both ways. I say NADOLSKY, but my family says NADOLSKY. I don't know.
Oh, so you guys are split.
Yeah, we don't.
Oh.
Got a split, divided family.
So where do you coming from?
I'm coming from right down the road in Sneed's Ferry.
Welcome to the area, by the way.
But I'm not actually from there, but now I am, I suppose.
Where have you spent most of your time?
First 20 years of my life in Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Then moved south to Chapel Hill for school. Then medical school at Virginia Tech, Blacksburg for a couple of years. And then you do your clinicals, which I did in Hampton Roads, Norfolk area,
mm-hmm.
Portsmouth, and then Maryland. This is all because of my wife. I met her in medical school, and she's a military doctor. My brother did the military thing. Wife did the military thing. I refused.
Oh, she's actually in the military?
Yeah, she's
wow.
She's an active duty officer, but not. We laugh. It's not real. It's not the real military. If that's it's kind of like
it's a different lifestyle than what I experienced.
It's like me being a doctor, her being a military. Yeah. Same thing, same kind of thing. We laugh about it. She did her little officer school, but it's different than the real deal. Anyway, everybody in my family did the military thing, and I was like, I refuse to because I want to do whatever I want to do. But then I met her, and then we got married, and I did whatever they wanted to do anyway. So ended up in Bethesda after Portsmouth.
You're basically a dependent.
I am.
And
you know what's it's so bad? When I go in for appointments, they salute me and say, Lieutenant Commander NADOLSKY, and she stands up and they're like, no, it's
no.
And she's like, no, it's actually me. And then when she comes to appointments with me, they go they ask her basically they treat her like the spouse, and she goes, no, actually he's the spouse.
He's the dependopotamus.
And they're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. They're doing the whole gender thing. It is kind of bad. And they salute me.
It's
and
2021. I didn't think we could
get with the program.
I get with the program, man.
And I think she's a nurse, and yeah, it's still bad.
Does she get worked up? Does that give
Doesn't
her?
really, but she gets annoyed. She's pretty cool. It doesn't. It annoys her, but it's not like she gets.
I mean, I would imagine so, right? You have a lady that's devoted her life, her adult life to education and doing this job, and then you're like, oh, sit down, spouse.
I know. I laugh. I'm like, I do have the blue check on Instagram. That counts for some sort of
Right.
Some sort of ranking.
There's
right?
a DR there with a blue check. That's a
Yeah,
big deal.
That's a big so from Bethesda, they sent us to San Diego, and then now, after 3 years, now we're here for a couple of years. So
how's it been? Yeah, I messaged you when you said, "Hey," randomly you posted on a story. You said, "Sneed's Ferry. What do I need to know?" And I was like, "Oh my God,
what's bringing you to there?
Why on earth would you go to Sneed's Ferry?"
Yeah. Why? Yeah. So basically, we wanted to be as close to the beach as possible while being within her 30-minute range, because she's a neonatologist, so she has to be, when she's on call, she has to be within 30 minutes to drive in and save a baby's life.
Yeah.
So we were like, okay, Mimosa Bay, that's the neighborhood.
Yeah.
We like to drink
a
few basic mimosas once in a while. So we're like, there has to be a good neighborhood because of the name. It sounds stupid, but that's literally, I was like, that's where we're living. But a few other people said, yeah, it's actually a nice neighborhood.
It's nice neighborhood.
So great houses in the neighborhood.
It's nice. So we posted in this military spouses, the Camp Lejeune military spouses.
Are you in the wives group, the neighborhood wives group?
I am. I honestly think I'm the only, one of the only guys in there that ever posts.
That's so awesome.
It's bad. So this woman was like, hey, we're starting to rent our place when you guys are coming in. So we got a house very quickly, sign the lease and everything. And there's nothing there. And you were right, because you were like, I hadn't even moved yet.
Yeah.
I was like, no, I'll be okay. But it was for a few weeks there was
there's nothing.
I was like a little bit on edge of like, all right, I don't know what I'm going to do here. So I can't just make memes all day. I got to have some sort of life.
So how has it been adjusting now?
Actually, in the past week or two, it's been better. We got our daughter into soccer practice.
Nice.
And Surf City is beautiful.
Yeah.
It's been nice.
I try to tell people.
I know it is nice. I wish we could actually live there.
Yeah.
Can't, just because it's right outside the.
There's such a drastic difference between Sneed's Ferry, Aura, and Surf City and Hampstead.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. How's Hampstead though?
Quiet.
Yeah.
There's not much
Surf
there.
City
it's quiet.
Seems cooler.
It is.
I thought Hampstead would maybe be a place to live.
The reason why Hampstead is nice to live is because you're really close to Wilmington.
Yeah.
But you're also close to Surf City, so you kind of have the best of both.
I don't know. I think I'd like to live in. So if I were going to live somewhere around here, I'd be Surf City.
Just go live on the beach.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Memes on the beach. So so now we're here. We're doing okay. I found a few gyms.
Yeah.
Heard there's a private gym maybe around here.
I think I know of a guy that knows a guy that has a private gym.
That might be pretty cool.
So what is it that you, other than making memes and royally pissing people off and starting fights on the internet, which I just thoroughly enjoy, even when I sometimes might not agree with you, I'm just like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Because people get so upset about
nothing.
Artificial sweetener.
Yeah.
That's why is there 50 people on your Instagram arguing about artificial sweetener?
And it doesn't matter. I could post about it days in a row, and it
will still trigger
still
them.
Blows up and every time. And I even make jokes about there's this there's a little video of this big buff chef throwing in something into a pot, and then he kind of does this little dance and runs away, and it gets on fire. I always joke, I'm like, this is me posting an artificial sweetener meme and running away, because it's always just a dumpster fire in the comments.
That's such a great thing for your Instagram account, though.
It is. It's good for the algorithm.
Yeah.
So there is an art to making a meme.
Poking the fire a little bit.
So I'm actually writing some content on how to make a good meme. And you can be a general meme people. You see these people, Tank Sinatra is actually a friend of mine. He's a guy that does memes, and then Shithead Steve and some of these other big meme pages. You can be a general, but I niched down into just fitness, the Dr. Fitness meme guy. And so I have a specific, I don't post general sexual stuff.
Yeah.
Only
very
fitness,
focused.
Only sexual fitness stuff.
Sexual.
So so poking, you don't want to be too contrarian and too controversial all the time.
Yeah.
But sometimes that's the way to really, light the fire for engagement. Because then the people that agree with it go, yeah, and then the people that disagree go, you're a piece of shit.
I've actually seen that.
And then they all start fighting, and then it just blows up, and then the algorithm picks it up and starts showing it in the I don't know. Page. Yeah, in the Explorer. I don't even do the hashtag thing. I probably should, but like I don't even do it, and they blow up.
I don't think you have to anymore.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And there's I think the hashtags are tacky, but maybe I'm wrong.
I think the hashtags, they're not tacky because for a while there I got on the hashtag game, but it was like really long. It was like sentences in a hashtag that would further push the agenda of what I was trying to do.
Hashtag not a doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very positive ones, like feel good. They always do really well, but you can't do that. That's not real to me. I'm like a goofy, real person. Like I'll just tell it how it is. I can't be this fake, overly positive person because I just don't. Not everything's positive, and that's not how we all think. I'm also don't.
It's true though. Sometimes sometimes days are shitty.
There's some shit.
Yeah.
Sometimes you feel like shit. And sometimes you just need the truth. But I also mix in some empathy, and so sometimes people will catch me on the wrong days when it seems just overly negative, and they're just like, "You're a piece of shit." They yell at me, and I'm like, "No, I'm not really like this. It's just a day. I think it was needed to just call out this, that, and the other thing."
Yeah.
Whereas there are some people that are just completely negative, and they grow a big following doing that. But
oh, it's so gross though.
I don't like it. It's not. It's
like you have to go on somebody's account that's like that, and you have to take a shower when you leave.
Yeah, it doesn't feel good to me either because it does take a lot of energy. Whenever I do some of these things, you have to have thick skin. I've had to learn that. Before it used to I'd get pretty angry. Now I've learned to just go, all right. It just doesn't matter. I can go and block them and restrict them. It doesn't, if I wanted to.
Close the computer.
Yeah, you just it's like this. You just put your phone down.
So yesterday I actually, because I was traveling all day, I always do a meme per day or some sort of post per day, and I posted about all right, so telling somebody with obesity to eat less and move more is like telling somebody with depression just to cheer up. And someone with alcohol use disorder to drink less alcohol. It's obvious, blah, blah. And I kind of explained it.
Yeah.
And, the thing is, I couldn't even check the comments until later in the day. And I was just kind of scrolling through, and it did pretty well, but and a ton of people agreed. And then there were a ton of people that were just like, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And I'm like, I don't even have energy to even respond, but it was probably good that I didn't have the time to even respond because I was just some of those comments. I'm like, I really want to respond, but there's so many. I don't have time for this. So there's a I don't know if I'd say a science to making them, but there's something there that
it's so much that you could write a book about it.
Yeah, I could write a little book.
I need this book.
I know.
It'd be great.
This is good information for me to know.
Yeah.
So when you're not being the meme doctor and pouring gasoline on everybody's fire, what is it that you're doing?
Yeah, so I'm obviously really big into fitness for myself. I think fitness is medicine, so I treat it as my own daily dose of whatever medicine that you would take chronically, blood pressure,
right,
anything like that. So I try to get in some sort of exercise 4 times a week. I'm lifting weights 2 or 3 times a week, some sort of aerobic activity, running, biking, whatever. And then beyond that, then I do have my own set of patients. My patient panel is closed right now, but I have, it used to be 300 patients, but now it's about 150.
That's awesome.
So it's kind of a little bit of everything. Being too much of a doctor it leads to burnout. You'll see a lot of doctors that are just like, I can't do this anymore. And I knew a 9 to 5 or whatever it was when I was in the clinic.
So you did do the clinic. You had clinic time.
I did before. It was 2016, 2017. I got out and did full-time telemedicine, which was all through my own social media. My followers wanted to be my patient, and this company said, hey, do you want to have your followers as your patient? We'll get you licensed, and we'll just take a small cut. And I was like, all right. So I posted about it, and a ton of people, 400 people signed up with just one stupid Facebook post.
This was awesome.
I didn't even have that many. I had 15,000 followers back then on just Facebook. I didn't even have an Instagram really back then.
But that just shows the power of what that is, because that's a career right there.
Yeah, it was. That was a physician's salary.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. It got me out of the clinic. My daughter was just born. It gave a ton of flexibility. Now the other issue, my wife's a full-time, she's full-time having to go in and be the real doctor around you.
Yeah.
And so then I have all this time and I'm like, I wish she could hang out because then we could go traveling and do whatever. So then we're still stuck because of the military.
Yeah.
But it does allow me to do some of these other things.
You just wake up in your bathrobe with your coffee mug. You're like, I'm going to go talk to this patient real quick. Give me a sec.
Yeah. I'm going to go do this podcast down the road.
Well, it's got to be. I mean, even just from the perspective of finding a doctor that's in good shape and is in better shape than you are, right? Like for normal people, like
you might be the only one that I know actually.
Right. It's like when I go to the doctor, I want to look at somebody that looks healthier than me. And when I don't, I'm kind of like, do I trust everything you're saying?
It's interesting. So I do a lot of obesity medicine, and then I do lipids, which is like cholesterol, triglycerides, that type of thing. And in my opinion, I'm not trying to be an elitist, but I would think similarly.
Let's do it.
To you guys.
Let's be an elitist.
Yeah, let's be an elitist.
Fuck everyone else.
Yeah, in my opinion, it would be like, okay, yeah. So whenever I hire a coach for physique or whatever it is, they better be more jacked than I am.
Right.
They better have bigger muscles. They better be stronger, or at least have the results of people like that.
The social proof.
Social proof. So, you think of a football coach. There are a lot of football coaches who clearly have never played football and they don't look like they do any sort of physical activity or any nutritional.
Yeah.
So, which is fine, and they're great football coaches. But to me, if I'm doing lifestyle, I wouldn't hire a poor banker, type of thing, that accountant.
That's why I look at Cal. I look at Cal Dietz. And he looks like Cal Dietz.
Yeah.
He looks like a football coach.
Yeah, he's jacked.
And he is, but then all of a sudden you see him lift or take his shirt off, and you're like, what? Where did this come from?
Yeah.
Yeah. So your 150 clients, what is it? All obesity and lipids? Like that's what your particular.
So it is now. So whenever I take on a new patient, I'm full now, and I am working on some other things to maybe open
it up a little bit.
Yeah, I can't say too much right now. It's a little bit top secret, but there are some things I'm doing that might be specifically obesity medicine.
Mm-hmm.
But in the past, it was kind of generalized. But most of the people that followed me were like into that stuff, so that's what they came to me for.
Okay.
But then in the more recent years, mostly everybody was like weight loss and lipids. But then I want to do some things that maybe focus. Like make a service that really focuses on those.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you guys have to follow his Instagram so that you'll know when things open up.
When it opens. I do.
Yeah.
I get tons of messages. I'm like, I'm sorry, my panel's full. So yeah, but I have some doctor friends that say, no, you can only be a good obesity doctor if you ever suffered from obesity in the past. And I'm like, well, that would be like saying an oncologist.
I feel like there's a meme there.
There is. I've made a meme on that. So then you can't have any male OBGYNs.
Right.
An oncologist that's never had cancer, a cardiologist that doesn't.
The list goes on.
Never had heart disease. So you do want somebody with empathy who understands with obesity and anything for that matter. So.
My brother said the same thing. So I don't know if you saw any of his pictures on my page. He was he stopped. I think he said he stopped weighing at 400 pounds, and he's what 5'8", 5'9", yeah,
maybe 5'7".
And wild story. He called me, and I'm a busy guy. I'm a little bit of an elitist myself.
Yeah,
and
you're doing podcasts with me.
Yeah, and so I actually took the phone call. And later he told me, he's like, man, if you answered, I was going to do whatever you told me to do. And then he goes, if you didn't answer, I was going to order a Domino's pizza. And I just happened to answer.
It's a lot of pressure.
We were on the road, and it was like.
Yeah, he's 195.
Wow.
And has been maintained.
Flip that coin and you.
I mean, he's like a different person. It's amazing. But it's exactly what he said. He goes, Nick, what you don't understand is when you're that big, the way you think about things and the way you see yourself is completely twisted. Yeah. And so actually, next time he comes out, I'm gonna have him come on and kind of give his perspective from that.
Yeah.
From that.
That's pretty cool.
Maybe do a duel and have you guys talk about it.
Yeah.
And then you're also was a wrestler.
Yeah.
Has been wrestler.
Has been a wrestler. I wrestled heavyweight at UNC Chapel Hill.
What was heavyweight?
285. 197 was the next lowest one.
And what were you?
So I ranged between like 235 to all the way up to 265. Yeah.
Whoa.
I'm like 215 now.
265.
Yeah, that was like my senior year, and I was super strong and big, but like
How much was your cousin at his heaviest?
Oh man, I think he maybe was 245 at
Really?
his heaviest. Yeah, he was big, but like that.
Which you've heard of, which before we're
yeah.
from,
I was like,
you've
God, I
heard.
was like, I know that name.
Yeah.
I think it might have been a few years. It might have been a few years after me.
Yeah, because he graduated. He's only 33 or 34, I think.
So that I was like, okay, because he was that next kind of generation.
But he won his junior year. He won nationals, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then did he wrestle? What happened to?
He
got
did. He wrestled, but
I don't know if I can say he got a girlfriend.
Okay. No, that's
he did. He wrestled, but I think
Women.
okay. So he took first, and then I think his senior year he took sixth.
okay. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
National champ. That's amazing.
yeah.
That's
Right.
really cool.
Right. And he actually had, I don't know if you remember, this is totally a nerd out wrestling thing, but Don Bradley was the senior
Yeah.
at Mizzou.
Yes.
And he was a heavyweight, and they had to wrestle for the spot of heavyweight, multiple tournaments, multiple duels,
Yes.
and for nationals. And he was the senior, and Mark was the junior. So it was
Yes.
like,
I remember that now.
Yeah.
I remember that being a story.
he
when
beat
I
him
was
out
watching.
for
It's
the
amazing.
spot, and then he won nationals. So
It's
it was pretty
amazing.
cool.
That
yeah.
is really cool.
And then you said third. Is that what
Now,
you
I was
said?
ranked that high. I blew it at nationals. It's a sad story. I was always ranked high.
Was there a girl involved?
Well, there were girls involved. But yeah, ranked really high and
Yeah.
have some, so I was just looking, I was like, oh, I'm in the UNC single season record. I was like, I'm third. And there's some Rob Cole and TJ Jaworski, two like amazing, like big time, like Rob Cole is a coach at Cornell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or was. I think I don't know if there's a change there, but very good wrestler at UNC. And then TJ Jaworski was like a 3-time national champion there. And so anyway, I was looking at the record books. I'm like, yeah, I just kind of blew it at nationals. I don't know. Kind of like my brother's a really good wrestler at Michigan State. And so we, like.
And that's like that's a tough place to wrestle too, right?
Yeah. Well, and we talk about how like we beat national champ. We both beat national champs. We beat all the All-Americans. But then it was like, with basketball teams that are like ranked and then they get to the NCAA tournament and you just have a bad, I don't know.
It's a bad. Just weren't there.
You just screw the pooch. I don't know. So
how long were you wrestling? Like, when did you pick it up?
So I started in kindergarten.
Oh my goodness.
But lost to a girl my first match. My dad was a high school coach. All the high schoolers.
I watched that happen over at Crest all the time.
Yeah, they made fun of me, so I quit.
I got choked out by a 15-year-old girl.
Hey, see, there you go.
And then I posted it on YouTube.
Yeah, and then that got a lot of hits.
Yes,
or
it
what?
did.
Yeah, that's
Yes, it
perfect.
did.
That's even more
I even
important.
titled it "Marine Raider Gets Choked Out by a Girl."
Oh,
Or
perfect.
something
That's
like
a
that.
perfect title.
Yeah.
So I quit for a few years and came back in 3rd grade, and then just one of those things where you just kind of play around. But it wasn't until I went through puberty where it was like, oh, now I'm going to destroy people.
I'm gonna kill people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I my brother was always short, stocky, and jacked. I was kind of thinner, and so I wasn't as strong as he was compared to these other guys. So I'm like, you know what? I have a way bigger frame. I'm going to gain a ton of muscle. So I went from like 145 pounder my freshman year to 189, then 215, and that's where I became a state champ. And then heavyweight my senior year. And I was like, I wanted to go play football though, so I ended up playing football at Michigan State my first year, and then again, I was telling you before this, but the coach got fired, and I was playing fullback, and then they brought in this guy who did spread offense from Louisville, and John L. Smith. He goes, I was like, hey, I'm a fullback. Do you have a fullback? He goes, no, we don't. We do spread offense. You're going to go with the linebackers. I'm like, the hell I am. And the coach at Michigan State, the wrestling coach, was like, hey, we were recruiting you. Let's just give you a scholarship to wrestle. And I'm like, I don't know. I want to play football. So I wrestled there for Michigan State for a year, and then I was like, I still want to play football. I don't want to be here in the cold anymore at Michigan State. And I ended up transferring. I wanted to go somewhere in North Carolina so I could go to medical school in the area. And you have to be an in-state resident if you wanted to go to ECU, which was $6,000. Ironically, I did my interview after this all. I did my interview at ECU, and during my interview, I was like, hey, so what kind of people do you let in here? And he looked at me and he goes, we're a rough bunch. He goes, we don't usually let in our the Anglo-Saxons with pearly white teeth, and I was like,
Whoa.
I was like, this guy just told me, oh my God, why am I even here then? Why'd you even invite me? I couldn't believe he said that, and I was like, thank you. Like, I'm like, I don't know, my teeth I was like, that was weird. It was like, why am I even here? Like, the funny thing is, I moved to North Carolina to go to ECU for medical school. They didn't even let me in.
What?
I know. So it all worked out fine. Obviously, I'm a meme doctor hanging out.
Yeah, right.
But and
so what did you just pivot and go to UNC?
No. So I ended up going to Virginia College of Osteopathic Medicine at Virginia Tech.
Okay.
And actually wrestled with that. I didn't wrestle, but I hung out in the practice room and kind of coached their heavier guys. And that's where I met my wife. So it ended up working out fine. It was just kind of a funny story. I transferred to try to go to this specific medical school because it was super cheap, because I didn't want big loans.
Nah, too big and white, bro.
I know.
Yeah, you got to go.
I was like, man, I should have like not
Throwing
brushed
off
my
the
teeth
demographic
or something like that. I don't know. It was weird. I can't believe he even said that. I don't even know how that's legal, but I think back
I don't
to
think
that,
it is, but back then I think it was just, you know.
I'll never forget. We were a rough bunch. We don't typically let in Anglo-Saxons with pearly white teeth. I was like,
we prefer our white people to have lots of debt for school, for college.
I was like,
I wouldn't even know what to say.
I didn't. I just my heart sank, and I was like, oh my God, this is a place I literally changed my whole life to go to, and you just.
I think there's a life lesson there.
There was.
Yeah.
Don't do stupid shit when you're young. What was I doing? It was so stupid. Again, everything worked out fine. But I always think back to like, man, I should have just stayed at Michigan State and gone to their medical school and whatever. I don't know.
But you wouldn't have met your wife.
No, I know. And have my awesome kids. So it's like, whatever.
How many kids do you have?
I wouldn't even be here talking to you right now. I wouldn't be making memes probably. I don't know what else.
You'd be in a clinic miserable.
Yeah, miserable.
Ready to put a shotgun in your mouth.
No, you're not even kidding. It was miserable. What did you say about? Did you ask about my wife?
Yeah, no. How many kids do you have?
Two kids. 4. Well, about to be 5 in December. About to be 3 in January. So we're in the thick of it, though. You know,
that's fun.
It's fun, but they fight. They're so cute, though.
They're both girls.
Girl, older, boy, younger.
Nice.
And he's 100% boy, like just loud and obnoxious. And she's like super cute, girly.
I have 3 and we're going for 4. Actually, I have 3 and we're going for 10. No, I've got a 19-year-old, a 15-year-old, both 2 girls, 19 and 15. And then we've got a 1-year-old together.
Oh,
boy.
Wow.
Yeah. Redhead. Angry little redhead.
Angry redhead,
Yeah.
huh?
Yeah.
It's tough. I don't know how to explain parenting other than like your parenthood. People are like, I don't want to have kids, and some people are like, I want to have kids.
Put forth effort.
Yeah, like you.
That's it.
I wouldn't have it any. They make life super stressful and hard, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
Wouldn't change anything.
I don't know how to explain it.
There was a commercial about I don't know.
Insurance.
Was
I think.
it insurance?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Like, we're never getting married, and then it was like married, and we're like they would see like kids screaming and yelling, and then he would be like, we're never having kids, and she goes, I'm pregnant, and then it's like we're done, and it's like they're into like their second or third kid, like the house is destroyed, it's like chaos, and he's like, oh, we're never doing this again, and she like. As she's walking up the stairs, she passed him. She goes, "Oh, I'm pregnant again."
Yeah, I remember that one. It was like a financial. Was it
something? Yeah, something.
Financial planning. Or
great commercial.
Like
and I was laughing like that's exactly the way it is.
It's true.
We're never doing this again, and then we pay $14,000 to do it again.
Yeah.
Seriously, yeah. My wife, we'll be yelling at the kids, and I mean, it's like within an hour, she's like, "I think I want a third." I'm like, "Are you kidding me? We were just like yelling about this. What are you talking about? This is crazy." I'm like, I don't know, but then it's true. It's like, well, they're cute. They got that going for them.
Yeah, I've heard once you get to 3, you can just add on, and it's like no one even knows the difference.
They just take care of the next one.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Yeah.
I heard 3's tough though.
Yeah, the 3rd is tough, and then after that, you just don't even know the difference if they're there or not.
It just all blends.
I'm going to tell that to you.
It's gravy.
Not me, man.
So, man, let's talk about cholesterol. You want to talk about?
Anything you want to
teach me.
Yeah.
So I have never really gave a shit about cholesterol. You obviously know about the cholesterol myth and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Should we be taking cholesterol serious or not?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people get confused between like the cholesterol that's in food, like there's a lot of cholesterol in shrimp and eggs.
Yeah.
And then but then there's also the cholesterol that kind of circulates our blood. And so and then people go, well, I could eat a lot of this cholesterol and it doesn't really change what's in my blood, so cholesterol just doesn't matter. There's lots of different things like that,
right.
but they're two different things. So our body actually metabolizes cholesterol very specifically. We have to transport cholesterol on these little proteins through our blood. It's because of water and cholesterol don't really mix. It's kind of like oil and water.
And that's why they
Hydrophobic, hydrophilic, that type of thing.
That's why when I see like pictures of it and there's little things floating through.
Yeah. You see, so we don't actually have just cholesterol floating. It's connected to these little lipoproteins, and it makes a lipoprotein in these little specific little molecules. And the thing is, there's specific type of these proteins that actually get through our arteries and then become retained and start the atherosclerosis cascade. So then it's like, well,
you're talking about like the plaque.
Yeah, so
artery
heart disease,
plaque.
or peripheral artery disease. So you can, people can get, when you think of heart disease, just our heart blocked, but it also can build up in our legs, and you get leg pain, peripheral artery disease, and then can cause strokes. And then, so then people are like, but why doesn't it happen in why doesn't it happen in veins? Why doesn't it happen? There's all sorts of these things that you'll read about, and people will make very good
arguments on the other side of it.
And so that, but there's a lot of explanations of why. So if you have any questions, I can answer them, but I'll just explain. So there's a very specific type of protein. There's the apolipoprotein B for bad. Most common one that we know about is LDL, that everybody talks about, the bad cholesterol. It's kind of a misnomer because it's not really, the cholesterol is cholesterol. It's just carried on these different lipoproteins. So there can be even cholesterol from the LDL that gets transferred to an HDL at some point while getting transported through our body. And does that make it a good cholesterol? No, the cholesterol that's on these little proteins is just cholesterol. It's more of these the transporters that can be bad. So the LDL cholesterol, so what happens is that we eat whatever type of food. And if there's cholesterol in the food, it then gets absorbed into our body and gets put on these, a type of ApoB called chylomicrons. Goes through our body, gets metabolized, eventually gets recycled back into the liver. But our liver also makes these little apolipoprotein B molecules in the form of, usually we think of VLDL, very low density lipoproteins. It gets transported and metabolized through our body. It eventually ends up as these little LDL, low density lipoprotein. And so there can be a point where those can build up, and then those people tend to be at higher risk for cardiovascular disease. The higher amount that you have, the higher risk you have. But it doesn't necessarily automatically guarantee that you're going to get heart disease.
If you're higher risk, you have higher bad cholesterol, LDL. Does that mean you're automatically obese or overweight?
No. So that's
like somebody like myself or somebody like you.
Yeah. So like so I can have higher. Sometimes I do have higher cholesterol. LDL levels or ApoB levels. I like to check the ApoB. It's even more specific than just checking the cholesterol. You're checking the actual particle that gets into our...
And that's more accurate.
It tends to track better with cardiovascular disease. So body fat probably plays a very little role in that. If someone loses about 10% of their weight, it can change their LDL by 10%. It's not a huge effect.
Yeah.
The biggest effects are like genetics, and then also what we eat. So in terms of like saturated fat, and then there's different types of saturated fatty acids. So, they've done studies on like looking at the difference between butter, which has the same types of saturated fat as say like whole yogurt, and the butter has a more pronounced effect. And it has to do with, I think it's like the food matrix, the different components of the food probably change how it's absorbed, change how it has an effect on our liver, and how well it recycles the LDL. So there's lots of issues here, and why people bring it up, because some people could have very high cholesterol and go through life without having heart disease. And the reason is because it's what we call a multifactorial disease. So people with higher blood pressure are also at a much higher risk. People that smoke are at a much higher risk. People that have rheumatological, like psoriatic arthritis and other inflammatory diseases are at an increased risk. And this is all because it can accelerate the way that those little particles get retained into your arteries and then start that atherosclerosis. So like some people can be super healthy and have a little bit higher cholesterol, and we don't worry as much about those people. They're probably at a higher risk than someone who's super healthy and has lower levels. But like, are you going to treat them? I don't know. That's where a lot of this stuff comes from.
So I'm concerned about cholesterol, and what should I be? I mean, I already kind of know the answer to this, but what should I be eating, or what should I not be eating? Maybe the better question is.
Yeah. So the things that have the biggest role in how much cholesterol builds up in our blood, saturated fat's probably number one, and then in the type of saturated fat, I would say butter, coconut oil. I'm trying to think of the other. Dairy's, again, you could have a higher fat cheese, and it just won't have as much of an effect as, say, butter would. So I'd say swapping out things like butter and coconut oil for more what we call the monounsaturated. And the classification has to do with the biochemistry, and there are double bonds in these big long chains of fatty acids. So if you have one double bond in there, it's a monounsaturated. If you have multiple double bonds, it's a polyunsaturated fat. The saturated fat has no double bonds in this large molecule. So if you switch from butter and coconut oil to, say, like olive oil, that'll have a little bit of an effect. Nuts, avocados, those type of things.
We get our olive oil from Greece.
Ooh.
So, yeah. We just brought a couple bottles back.
Jeez.
Yeah.
You get it, what do you get it direct? What do you get?
Yeah, we get direct. One of actually my uncle gets his own olive oil, and then my cousin's wife, their family has an olive oil farm. I don't know what you call it.
You guys got private gyms, private olive oil.
Yeah.
I'm kind of jealous. So yeah,
we're elitist.
Yeah, I love it. God, I love that. Perfect. I'll fit in here. So yeah, you swap those saturated fats for more of the poly and monounsaturated fats. You go from so then the next step is instead of dietary cholesterol, which I'll explain why it has such a low effect compared to saturated fat. I would start switching more of your carbohydrates to like more whole, like soluble fiber rich carbohydrates. So instead of eating white rice, you may switch it to some beans and lentils type of thing. Instead of, obviously instead of apple juice, you'd eat whole apples because it has actual whole fiber. And the fiber, the reason that's important is because it binds up some of the bile in your intestines. And bile is made of cholesterol. Cholesterol makes the bile. And actually, the reason that dietary cholesterol doesn't have a huge effect is because most of the cholesterol in our intestines is from actually bile and not from dietary cholesterol. It makes the bile makes up about 70 to 80%.
No kidding.
Yeah, and so then you could eat a ton of dietary cholesterol. The other reason is not all of it gets absorbed. Number one, and then number two, our liver does a pretty good job at going, okay, they're getting in a little bit more of cholesterol from their intestines. That the liver controls a lot of how much is in our blood, because that's where it starts upregulating the recycling of those LDL particles or ApoB particles. But there's a lot more to it too. So insulin resistance, I'm sure you've talked about that on here. People with insulin resistance don't really need very high levels of cholesterol to be at a very high risk for cardiovascular disease, and that's because it accelerates that process of retaining those ApoB particles and starting the atherosclerosis cascade. So people are like, how are these people with normal cholesterol levels having heart attacks? Well, it's because they have other things that are accelerating the risks.
The other lifestyle things that they're doing.
So people are like, well, then why are we focusing on cholesterol? It's like, no, it's kind of a straw man. It all matters.
Yeah.
We want to be metabolically healthy, and ideally you wouldn't have very high LDL cholesterol. I'm actually stress testing this a little bit. I have a friend, a crazy engineer friend who's a big ketogenic diet advocate.
I definitely want to talk about keto with you, but go on.
His name's Dave Feldman. He's kind of
because I think it's an okay tool, But man, you trash keto.
I love, it's a great tool for certain people. It can be very therapeutic, but it's an easy target for
yeah. And the one with the Star Wars guy, the Emperor, that's like the best ever.
Keto is wonderful. Dave, 43 years old.
I love it. And people get so mad because
all the keto people.
Because the thing is, I could have just said vegan too.
It doesn't matter.
But the thing is, if I said vegan, the vegans are vicious. So I don't even mess with them. Like sometimes I do, and they get aggressive.
Vegans are vicious.
Way more.
I was vegan-ish for a while.
Yeah.
I guess I
plant-based.
I guess I still kind of
vegan-ish.
Yeah.
That's kind of like being like virgin-ish.
Right. Exactly. Only in the butt. Yeah.
Yeah. So for the cholesterol stuff, dietary cholesterol, it has a small impact. It does have an impact, but it's very small to the point where it's like I wouldn't even start with that. I would start with focusing on mostly those monounsaturated, polyunsaturated fats, nuts, olive oil, avocados, and then.
But go way over. Like say somebody's like typical. Not even, that's sad to say like the typical American diet, but we all know what that means.
Yeah.
I'm talking like shit out of a box, fast food,
fried food, salt, sugar.
Like, you get somebody on your doorstep. What are you telling them?
So,
I mean, I know what I tell them, but
it kind of depends on the person.
You're the meme doctor, not me.
It depends on how aggressive you think you can be with this person without them going, screw this is too much.
Yeah.
So that's usually what it comes down to. It's kind of a compromise. Sometimes you go, all right, I'm just going to put you on this like what I call like a simple diet template. In the morning, you're going to have X amount of protein, X amount of carbohydrates, X amount of fat.
Just macros.
But I do it in terms of food. So
okay.
So like if I'm like, all right, you're going to eat 40 grams of protein. I don't even know what that is. Should I this is where if you tell people just eat 40 grams of protein, they'll be like, all right, they'll go get spare ribs. And I'm not kidding you. I see this all the time. So then I go, okay, get it 40 grams of protein in terms of like leaner types of protein. Yeah. So that's going to be about 1.5 cups or so of Greek yogurt.
Yeah.
Or it's going to be about 7 ounces of chicken breast or lean chicken thighs or sirloin or fish or something like that. Or it's going to be about almost 2 scoops of protein powder. Like those are your options. So you don't give them one specific thing. You give them a few options in that category. Then you go, okay, your carbohydrate's going to be either oats or berries, that type of thing, or a mixture of the two.
So you're just making it even more simple.
Yeah. So it's a little bit more direct. So macros are super flexible because then you'll leave it up to them what they want to fill it in with.
Yeah.
I like to give in the middle of like dietary quality. It's a little bit more rigid, so you have to know who the person is, but it's not so flexible that they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
There's different ways to do it. I mean, honestly, you could, if you taught them well enough, like, hey, I want you to kind of eat a better quality dietary pattern while putting your things into MyFitnessPal or whatever macro tracker. People can do well with that too. I tend to make it even
it's
simpler.
smart because you're giving them, hey, these are the things that I want you to eat. Let's just narrow it way down so that it takes the guesswork out of it. Yeah.
And then eventually you go, okay, now you can just go do whatever you want. Like
when they learn.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't know if it works any better. You'd have to do a randomized controlled trial.
I feel like I do like I do on repeat. I figured out what works. And I'm just gonna eat the same shit every day.
That's you have what it's called a meal template. You have very similar amounts of different types of foods in certain categories for each meal. The problem is people they just sporadically eat whatever they want during the day, and they just kind of don't really have any consistency. Like maybe their consistency is drinking a Frappuccino from Starbucks. It's easy because you just swap that. It's like, dude, that's like 500 calories.
You just had a piece of cake.
Yeah. For nothing. Like you just drink a freaking protein shake. Just drink a protein shake with some coffee in it, and then it's like, wow, I just lost 10 pounds. So
amazing.
Those types of things. So for someone that's like, my cholesterol's high. And cholesterol, again, it's so. I was one time. Do you know Lane Norton? Mm-hmm. I was he's a bodybuilding type of guy. I went on his a video with him, and I was going over his lipid levels, and his LDL was kind of this higher level of what we'd consider normal. But what's normal anyway? Like, are we looking at like?
So I was going to bring up HRT. So imagine if he's a bodybuilder, he's on testosterone.
Well, no, see, he says he's natural. I mean, that's like his big thing. But
is he over 40?
No, he's like my age.
Yeah,
I think
okay.
so. He's old balls. No, yeah. He's like maybe a couple of years.
I'm not
older.
calling you out, man, but
yeah, no, he's like 30. Yeah, he's like, I don't know. But he says he's natural, no TRT.
Okay, sure.
But look, I'm going over his levels of. I mean, we did his testosterone and stuff like that, but I was going over his lipid levels, and I was on his video. I didn't want to like call him out like, hey, your cholesterol's a little bit higher than I would like, but I made the mistake of saying it's normal because technically it's within the population level of normal.
right.
But there's a lot of people that are like, well, normal doesn't mean good.
Well,
It
yeah,
just
a
means
250 or a 12 free testosterone is normal.
Right. So for like testosterone, so technically, if he comes back in the reference range a little bit above 300 nanograms per deciliter, it's normal. But you're like, if my
normal for what?
Yeah, if my testosterone came back that low, I'd be like, that's not normal. So like same thing with lipids. We think that based on like primates and hunter gatherers, the level should be a lot lower. So anyway, I was laughing because I said normal, and this vegan guy this guy Vegan Gains. I don't know if you know who he is.
I do know that. Yeah.
Great. He's a bit aggressive, but he actually
Why
made a
are
funny.
vegans so aggressive?
Because they lack cholesterol.
It lowers your testosterone.
Yeah, they're irritable. Their testosterone's lower. So no, I don't know.
We're just making jokes. Everybody relax.
Yeah. So but he actually made a funny video. He was like, who is this doctor anyway? He went to spoon clacking school, and it was actually really funny. I was like, man, this guy's a real asshole, but I can't even lie. This is actually funny. He was like, normal? Are you kidding me? This is like pretty high. Like normal should be like a lot lower than our levels say they should be. And I actually didn't disagree with him. And he's like, do you want to debate me? And I was like, yeah, I'll debate you. Because like the funniest thing is like, if he would debate me, I would have been like, no, I actually agree with you, but I'm on this other guy's YouTube, and I don't want to like say like, hey man, this is a little bit high, what I would consider like good, but it's still within the range of where I wouldn't recommend a drug to him. So I was kind of like, it's normal, like I don't want to like, anyway, it's just kind of a funny aside on normal levels of lipids. So if somebody came into me with relatively high population level cholesterol, LDL specifically cholesterol, oh yeah, here's your. Also, so I'm just going to look at yours. So you don't have what I would consider, you have very good levels, actually.
Hell yeah.
Yours are on low, you're in the population normal, but you're on that low level of population normal. Yours are where I'd expect it.
And I'm on TRT.
So you're on TRT. Let me see. Do you have your thyroid or testosterone levels?
Yeah, I like to run around 2,000 nanograms. Let's go wrestle.
Yeah, your insulin level. I mean, actually, I'm looking at your. The thing is with my TRT patients, some of them are just on such high doses. Their hematocrit gets high. I don't know if you give blood or not.
I don't. They usually don't take my blood.
No, your hematocrit looks good here. So you don't have what I would consider high.
Well, the way I understand it, sometimes you're on TRT, your cholesterol can get high. But the way that this is some kindergarten shit, that basically the pathway's bigger because you're on TRT, and then so that if your cholesterol is a little higher on TRT, then it's kind of normal. Does that make sense? Am I saying that correctly?
The only time I ever see is usually HDL starts to decrease when they're on supraphysiologic doses.
No, I'm on 200 milligrams of.
Is that a week?
Yeah.
What's your level of testosterone?
It's on here.
I didn't see.
Well, this was.
I'm blind. Because 200 is a pretty good.
Well, keep in mind I had a TBI and.
Okay.
Yeah.
200 is a pretty high dose, but it's not affecting your hematocrit, and that's usually.
When this was taken, my testosterone was 1,200, and my free testosterone was 30.9.
That's right at the high.
I feel great. I feel normal.
Yeah, and it's not having an effect. You don't have any sleep apnea from it or anything that.
No.
Does he snore?
Oh,
Not at all.
I'm probably the one.
He's just choking.
She's not.
I think I
All
probably
right,
snore.
let's get a sleep study. But like, so your levels actually aren't, not the testosterone, but the LDL levels and cholesterol levels are actually very, very good. Your insulin levels are nice and low.
Yeah.
But like someone coming in with like, all right, where we start thinking about drugs when somebody's perfectly healthy and we start wondering if it's a genetic cause, we call it familial hypercholesterolemia. It's 190 and above milligrams per deciliter of LDL cholesterol. That's where we'd go, hey, we should probably think about doing some dietary things. Dietary things don't always affect it, though. If it's strongly genetic, the dietary stuff like doesn't touch it.
Really?
It depends on the genetics. So
have you noticed a certain demographic
of what?
of people with more like a genetically issue?
Not I
Or
have
blood type or anything?
I have patients I get very detailed genetics now, because like a lot of people like, it doesn't matter, you just got to put them on drugs. Well, it does kind of matter, because I want to know if I can aggressively put them on lifestyle and just try to get it down. And because if it's genetic, we'll try.
If you have high bad cholesterol, what are some of the, other than heart disease that you're just gonna kill you, what are some symptoms that people probably are feeling? You wouldn't even notice.
You don't notice. Now, if it's genetic, you can start getting xanthomas. You can get a little cholesterol deposits on your eyelids, on your knuckles and Achilles tendons, and you feel these like little nodules, bumps. But like that's sort of like high levels of it, and most people, it's a rare, relatively rare.
So the big scare, the big thing that you're working out for is that heart disease.
Yeah, that's the reason we want to find them early, because we put them on cholesterol medicine and hopefully prevent that.
Is heart disease? You might know. Is heart disease still the #1 killer in men?
Yeah.
In the nation.
Yeah.
It's like hundreds of thousands, right? 600,000, something like that.
It's a lot. It's the #1. Although I have to look at some of the things change with cancer. I have to look, but heart disease, it's the killer.
Get your shit together, everybody. Jesus.
I have a question, because I'm reading
I'm gonna go pee.
actually listening to your book on Audible.
Oh, you're listening while you're listening?
No, right now.
Oh, okay.
No, I've been listening to it because I wanted to, make sure I kind of had an idea of the different things you talk about.
Yeah.
So one of the things that was the most exciting for me in your book is because it is very, very basic. It's like getting people on catching, even the title, the fat loss prescription, and getting people like on the page of like dealing with fat loss.
Yeah.
Like very basics, not even talking about what you guys are talking about with LDL and all that.
Yeah.
But one thing you jump on is epigenetics and the things that we're predisposed to versus the things that we can change.
Yeah.
Can you touch on that at all? And
yeah, I'm not a geneticist. There's some amazing geneticists, but basically it's how our genes are expressed. And I guarantee if there's a geneticist listening, they're like, that guy doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. But on the very basic levels, like, we have what we call our phenotype, is how we present. Like I have somewhat kind of blonde hair and my skin's not super tan, but I'm not super pale. You can
tan, right?
Yeah. So we have like how we present our phenotype, and then we have our genotype, and then there are these epigenetics, which kind of can turn our environment interacts with our genes basically, and can turn on and off how maybe we present metabolically and all sorts of other things. Like I can't change my eye color and that type of thing, but so epigenetics. There's possible that we can change the way some of our genes are expressed based on our environment and how we interact with our environment and do. So like based on what we eat and what we do, we can maybe modulate how some of these genes are expressed. That's kind of like my layman's. If there's a geneticist listening that wants to completely correct me and say I'm full of shit, but that's my basic.
There will be.
That's my basic understanding of how. Like, so it's one of those things where it's like, okay, control what you can, accept what you can't. We can't change our genes, but we can change the way our lifestyle is, within reason. Of course, there's social determinants of health. Like, now I'm in Sneed's Ferry. I can't walk my kids to the daycare. I have to drive them. So I'm not walking as much. I have to walk around. Anyway, there's that type of stuff. But control what you can, accept what you can't. So we can't control our genes, but we can control at least somewhat of our lifestyle, and that can interact with our genes and maybe switch on and off some of these epigenetics.
So, for instance, if somebody has got a family of overweight people and they're like, okay, I want to break the cycle. I don't want to be this overweight anymore. How prone to like repeat the cycle are they based off of just their genes or, able to change it if they change their entire environment?
They're not doomed necessarily unless, so there's monogenetic big mutations in like a major gene that controls energy balance, appetite, and that's relatively rare. But a lot of things we look at these the polygenetic, these little SNPs, single nucleotide differences, and it will show there will be a variance of 10-30% of depending on how your genes are playing out. But like they've done studies and based on lifestyle factors, you can totally mitigate or minimize the effect of your genes. So like you're just not doomed. It's just you're more prone and you have maybe a little bit more of a barrier to overcome. And really where the genetics are in our brain and probably appetite related. So that's why it's like, well, wait, our genetics haven't changed that much in the past, however many years that we've seen this epidemic of obesity and weight increase. So what's happened? Our environment's changed. So basically, if you can control your environment a little bit better than what you're doing, at least in your own microcosm, you can make an impact. So like someone that's living in the
fairy.
It's fair, yeah. It's fair. Like an obesity-prone family, it's hard to tease out exactly what was environmental versus genetic. Now, probably both in those cases. So then you bring someone out who decides to make a change, and they can make a change. So it's just hard. But they're not doomed, I would say.
Can you touch on what you've dealt with your predisposition, or do you not want to talk about that?
What's my predisposition?
What's
wrong with me?
Huge pecs, big shoulders.
Yeah. What the doctor told you years ago, and then what you found out your whole family has.
Hashimoto's.
You have Hashimoto's? I have Hashimoto's.
I technically don't have it yet.
Pre-Hashimoto's?
Pre-Hashimoto's. Were your antibodies high or something?
I don't remember. So I went to a brain clinic when I got out of the military. It was a 2-week like inpatient TBI clinic, and he did all my labs. And he's the one that told me. He goes, "Do you have Hashimoto's in your family?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "You sure?" I was like, "Yeah, no." And he said, "Well, listen, and he talked, he looked at my hormones and everything. He said, "Listen, you need to be really lean. You don't need to be overweight." And he gave me this long list of stuff. Come to find out, my grandmother had it. My aunt has it.
Really?
Like,
all your cousins all have
basically
it.
my whole Greek
did
side
he
has
look
it.
at your genes, or did he look at something else?
No.
I have no idea.
Must have been your antibodies.
I have no idea.
It was your blood work.
They did one of the most like thorough.
Had to have been antibodies. So we can make these antibodies that basically attack our thyroid, and that's Hashimoto's. There's Hashimoto's hypothyroidism, though. That's when the antibodies attack it. That's what I have. My thyroid's dead now because I found it in medical school. But basically, it attacks it so much that it doesn't produce any more thyroid hormone, or less and less and less.
So what is that? What happens with that?
So you go hypothyroid. Thyroid controls your metabolism.
Hypo,
Low.
which means you can get fat.
So it's complicated. You can gain weight.
Yeah.
So it's not a major cause of obesity. That's hypothyroidism associated with like 10, maybe 30 pounds of weight. A lot of it actually is fluid, water from water retention, sodium retention, that type of thing. It's kind of interesting. But so a lot of people think, obesity is from thyroid issues. Not really, not usually. Actually,
It's like a scapegoat.
It's kind of. It's just not the issue. In fact, a lot of people with obesity have higher levels of thyroid in their body. So it's kind of like chicken. It's not actually causing hypothyroidism isn't causing obesity. But there are people that will develop like Hashimoto's, and then they can slowly start to gain weight, and it can be a little bit tougher to lose weight once you finally figure it out. But just N of 1, I had when I figured out I had it, I still had abs and stuff like that. So it's kind of like, okay, but I don't fit the actual mold.
Yeah.
Of it. So then you get on thyroid replacement. You want to be on a proper thyroid replacement
Do you?
dose. Yeah, I take a whopping dose of 200 micrograms of Synthroid.
Okay.
I'm on a generic one now, but yeah. And then you can actually take, that's T4. You can actually take a combination of T3 is the more active version of the thyroid, and T4 gets converted in your body. And
Do you feel any difference being on it or off it?
yeah, I have to take it. If I'm not taking it, I'm like sleeping all day.
Just lethargic as can be. Yeah. Interesting.
So that's what, some people notice the effects, like very small changes in their thyroid levels.
Yeah.
They'll be like, all right, there's something up with the manufacturer or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where, getting on a good dose is important. And then your metabolic rate's normal and you just follow the same principles as before. But yeah, I have a feeling they checked your antibodies or something like that.
Yeah. I had no idea.
But it was something to where it kind of gave you a wake up call just getting out of the military at that point.
I was heavier too.
Yeah, lifestyle. Okay, lifestyle. I have to stay lean or this could be an issue.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know. Is level of body fat an issue with that, or no? You don't think so?
I don't think so. But
obviously being lean is better.
Being
healthier.
lean is always better.
Always better. Yeah.
Look better naked.
Yeah,
That's it.
seriously. No, I mean, body fat doesn't have a huge role in the Hashimoto's, but just, I mean, honestly, if you're worried about it, you stay lean just in case. It could make it harder to lose it. If
That's
you
what he
develop
said.
it.
That is what he said
So-
was it'd be harder to lose it.
Yeah, I mean the thing is, it shouldn't be because your metabolic rate is higher, but you start feeling tight. Things aren't as exactly the same once you.
It was a weird time for me. Like that was a strange time because I'd gotten out of the military. I had just crusted over 30. So
your balls dropped a little bit further.
yeah, a little bit hanging, but my testosterone was a 197.
Really?
And and then all this stuff just kind of started happening around the same time, and it was miserable, man.
Yeah.
I just did not feel.
They think it's from the TBI, probably.
It was like, yeah, it was a bunch of different things. That, the testosterone being, I mean, I'm 31 years old. I have a 197,
Yeah, did they checked it early in the morning, fasted?
Yeah,
and all
did
that
a whole,
stuff,
did
did it a
cortisol
few times
test,
and everything.
the whole 9 yards.
I've had a few guys like that, military TBI. I don't know, because your pituitary is there, your hypothalamus pituitary, and it has to communicate.
You get damaged.
So if it doesn't communicate very well.
I actually put this in my book. You know what an AT4 is?
No.
It's like a shoulder fire rocket.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Probably just seen it in video games and movies and whatnot.
No,
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
Yeah. So you're only supposed, like, for real life, you're only supposed to fire like in the Army manual, the TM. I don't think it's a Marine Corps. I think it's an Army one. You're only supposed to, like, the safety manual, you're only supposed to fire like one every 24 hours or something like that. And me and my buddy, who's actually my business partner, we fired like 24 in a matter of like 20 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
On a training range.
Why? Just you were supposed to? That was
No. So we had other people. So we actually, I don't remember exactly the reason why, but for some reason, him and I were the two primary safety officers for the range. And so we rotated all of our team through shooting these AT4s. But we're standing right there. So we got the overpressure from every single one of these things.
Oh, gosh.
And I remember getting into the gun truck afterwards, like the armored Humvee things. And I look at him and I'm like, I don't feel so good. I felt like my insides were like gelatin. Anyways, that's
what did it feel like?
Like, you ever had
like when you shot, what was it? Just
like a shockwave.
Yeah, just like.
But over and over and over God. And over, and your insides feel like liquid. And I was nauseous and like sick feeling, and yeah, and I didn't know anything then, but I'm like, now everything that I know, I'm like, my brain was like, what the hell are you doing to me?
Yeah,
So there you go. That was one thing, and then there's a whole career of other stuff, but. Yeah, it's just one little funny story. Shooting one AT4.
Funny TBI stories.
Yeah, funny.
So much fun.
So much fun.
Love and light.
So, but yeah, that's one of the reasons. Yeah, when I got out, I was 31 and had done 12 years, and man, my whole life was just wrecked. I mean, I wrote a whole book about it.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Ugh, I'm glad you're doing better now.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is like talking with, I really, really focused on learning a lot, meeting guys like yourself, and like, how can I optimize?
Yeah.
How can I go back to what, or at least close to a version of what I was,
Yeah.
Both mentally and physically. So,
Jeez.
and health wise, actually, I feel like now I'm healthier than I was then.
Probably.
Maybe not physically capable of what I was in my 20s, but definitely health wise.
Yeah. Energy, focus, whatever.
So so I know that you're, as far as I know, you're a component of TRT.
Oh, what's that? A proponent?
Yeah.
Or a component?
A proponent.
I'm a component of it.
You are a component of
I'm very, I'm not for or against it. I'm for it for the proper person.
Right.
What I've seen is in recent years, doctors who just want to make a buck and they're slinging it out like any other drug just to make some money.
The reason why I brought it up is because I have a question about obesity and testosterone.
Yeah.
So you get an obese guy, his testosterone is low, his recovery is shit, his sleep is shit. It's kind of like chicken and the egg thing.
Yeah.
So where do you stand on that?
Yeah, I would probably talk with them and ideally try to get lifestyle first. But if it's like, I can't do lifestyle, I feel like shit.
Because I'm not sleeping, I feel like shit.
Shit. So then you go, all right.
Because I know the deal. Like if I can get this guy to, if he can lose weight, it's probably going to come up a little bit.
It a lot of times fixes it, not all the time.
Right.
It depends. So there's a lot of underlying causes. So for you, it's kind of like, all right, hopefully they did a full, I don't know if they did MRI. I don't know if you got any of that.
I got a lot of those.
A lot of that.
Yeah.
So like, oh God, this guy's testosterone's not going to come up. He has you had true hypogonadism.
Yeah.
Symptoms.
My pituitary gland was just blown
it's just
up.
not working.
Yeah.
For an obesity guy, we're thinking, you don't want to miss some other cause of it. There's multiple causes, hemochromatosis, all sorts of things, HIV, all sorts of different things, whether it's secondary or primary at the site of the testicles. So you do a workup, but ideally, or not ideally, but you're probably working with what we call like a male male-associated obesity, secondary hypogonadism. Mm-hmm. So hypogonadism, low testosterone from his obesity. And so then, well, we should fix the obesity. But sometimes it's harder to fix the obesity if they're feeling like crap. We have appetite suppressants. We have these new drugs called GLP-1 agonists. I love the drugs. And sometimes we start with those, even if they're feeling like crap, and then they start feeling better and their testosterone comes up. But not all the time. And then that's where it's like, all right, well, let's talk about it. Do you want to have kids? Do you want to stay fertile? Do you like that type of thing? And I'll tell you, sometimes it's the spark that just gets them obsessed, or obsessed has a negative connotation, but
I dig it.
In this
successful people are obsessed. I'm obsessed.
Me too. I'm going to use it in a more
so
positive.
There's a trend here, people.
I'm going to use it in a more positive context. Obsessed meaning like they just buy into fitness. Let's say that. Let's use
because they're feeling good. They're starting to see a little bit of results.
Obsessed. Yeah. Some people say obsessed where it becomes consuming. I'm going to say it's a good obsessed. They're bought in really into that lifestyle. The testosterone got them feeling better, and we're not talking about 2,000 nanograms per deciliter. Yeah. We're talking about 900,000, whatever, around there, to where they're like, I feel like a new man. I can recover in the gym. I feel like I can do a few more sets, and they just buy into it. They start feeling like they have energy to cook and meal prep and actually have that. If you're feeling like crap, the last thing you want to do is cook some broccoli and chicken breasts.
So it really gets me hard.
Yeah. So but seriously, that's the last you think about that. So
you want comfort.
So you get them, you give them a little spark, and they start feeling like, oh God, I can do this. So then all of a sudden, like, no, I can actually do this stuff, and I want to buy in. And then they start losing mostly fat.
Right.
And feel good. And then then you have the decision. Well, we could taper you off. We could put you on some HCG, and maybe you don't need testosterone.
Yeah.
I've done it a few times. It's really dependent on the person. And then sometimes it's like, well, your quality of life is much higher now. We can trial you off, and if the quality of life goes down and it's like you're just not feeling well, we put you back on. It just depends on the person. Tool. There's some people who are a little bit more anti. I would say more endocrinologists fit in this box. Endocrinologists, like my brother, he's probably a little bit more anti. I'm a little bit more in the middle, and then you have like the TRT clinics who are just like, you come in there, they're shooting you up, and they're putting you. I know some doctors, they're putting their guys on oxandrolone, Anavar, nandrolone. And I'm like, I don't even understand how that's TRT. That doesn't even make any sense to me. But these guys,
that's not TRT, but those things are interesting.
Yeah. So these guys come into me like, can I have some? I'm like, dude, you're bigger than I am. Like, you're 45, you're 50, and you're like huge. I'm like, I think we need to tone this down a little bit. I'm worried you're gonna have a stroke here, buddy. Hematocrits through the roof, and I'm just like, oh God. But yeah. So I'm more in the middle. I'm actually not against it. I wouldn't brand myself a TRT doctor either, but
I've just heard you speak on it on a couple live feeds.
Yeah, I'm kind of like, I'm certainly not against it. I'm not.
Do you take anything?
No, I don't. Although, sometimes there's this guy.
Should you?
Eric. I've thought about it at some point because I'm like, okay. The thing is, here's my thing. If I took it and I bumped myself up, I think there'd be a noticeable 10 pounds of muscle gain. Yeah. I'm pretty sure because I know the way. Of
course there would be.
I know the way that I like to lift weights. And if I could lift weights and do twice as much volume that I'm doing now because it would feel better. So it would not only be the TRT, I would be adding volume. And because
you'd be able to handle the
because
volume.
I'd be able to handle it because I like it and I know I could pack on some muscle.
Let's do it. Let's turn Dr. Meme Doctor into a beast.
So here's a funny thing. I thought about like, okay, everybody, there's a lot of stigma around testosterone and anabolic steroids, and I'm Mr. Anti, like, no, don't do drugs, steroids and whatever. But I thought about this like, okay, I look the way I am now. Wouldn't it would be a cool YouTube series. I think I'd get my license removed though. I'm pretty sure because it's illegal. But like, what if I did an experiment? Like, here's exactly what I'm going to take. I don't advocate for anybody else. Let's actually see what happens.
That would be awesome.
How would you lose your license?
Yeah, what if somebody else did it for you? What if somebody else prescribed it, your wife or something?
You can't.
Why is the baby doctor giving you nandrolone? I've thought about it just from a purely entertainment, but selfish way because it's like I love lifting weights and then like.
But legally, I mean, I don't know. Legally, if you have another doctor check your stuff and prescribe it, I mean, legit.
Testosterone,
right?
Yes, but then nandrolone is technically.
No, yeah.
So I could probably get nandrolone. In fact, I know doctors that are handing it out. I could probably go get on testosterone and some nandrolone.
I don't know about nandrolone, but
I've heard it feels good.
My clinic has access to a lot of things.
Yeah.
But none of the horse meds. The actual stuff. Like legit.
Yeah. Like so that's oxandrolone, Anavar, and then like the nandrolone.
Yeah.
They can still prescribe those. I don't even know how like you'd get that. But I thought about like
you want just 100 milligrams of test.
Just 100. Well, I'm about like 600 milligrams per deciliter or nanograms per deciliter when you check my levels. I hover around.
So
there.
At 37 at 600.
Yeah, it's not bad. Feel
naturally, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that is awesome.
Feel pretty good. And so like, I feel like okay, you bump me up to 1200. And then if you throw in just a touch of nandrolone, I'm like 10, 20. I guarantee I've 10, 20 pounds of just lean mass. You'd see it in my shoulders right now.
Yeah.
Like, I have decent shoulders, but like the shoulders.
The shoulder caps just pop.
Shoulder, they just go boom, and my traps would go like you would see it. And my waist would a little bit. Like, I probably wouldn't do anything for my calves, which are tiny, but which would be unfortunate. I'd look even more like a Dorito or whatever. But I've always thought about it, but I don't. If there becomes a time where it's like the quality of life is low. Like my libido's good and everything. Like so.
Yeah, if you're good now, then there's no need.
Yeah,
but you hit 40 in a few years, and it starts to go down. Then why? Why be? My whole point. Why be miserable? Especially if you can do it in a healthy way and keep your cholesterol and keep everything going.
I know. So it's a great question.
Yeah.
Well, so women who go through menopause.
That was my next thing was
next
bringing
question.
the same question about obesity in women but with hormones as well.
So you go through menopause.
Because all women can't lose weight because of their hormones. I didn't know if you knew that.
I know. I read that in a meme somewhere.
Yeah, I read that on an Instagram meme somewhere.
So you go through menopause. It's a natural thing. Your ovaries stop. There it is.
That's what it's like.
It's so some people will say it's not natural. No, it's going to happen. You're not going to have your estrogen forever. You're not going to have eggs forever. And we don't replace everybody. It's only in people who have symptoms. So some people go through it very gracefully. And those are the people lifestyle is very important with that too. People who age gracefully, lifting weights and eating what I'd consider a whole food type of satiating, high nutrient dense diet tend to do pretty well. But some people don't, and then we give them, if it's not what we call contraindicated, meaning we can't do it for cancer reasons, breast cancer or whatever, maybe strokes or something like that, we can give them hormone replacement therapy to stop the hot flashes, irritability, and all that thing that makes life miserable. So in guys, there's not the same, they call it andropause or we could call it menopause. I don't know. There's all sorts of things that people say. There's not that natural thing, but and some people are like, are we pathologizing this slow decline in our testosterone? Well, some people do. Some people have lower testosterone, feel fine, but then it's like some people don't. And so like, ideally we'd improve their lifestyle and maybe that will help. But then what if we bumped them up? And I have patients where I've done it both ways. I've bumped them up to 1,200. They're free to everything's high, and they're like, I don't feel any different.
That's so crazy.
And it's like
I'm so in tune with that
isn't that
part
weird?
of my life.
But that's because you have hypogonadism. But that's also because you actually had hype.
Okay.
You know
that
what I'm
makes
saying?
sense. Yeah.
So like you knew what it felt like.
And then I came off for 8 months so we could have a baby, which I didn't realize that I didn't need to come completely off.
It was so bad.
She wanted to leave me.
Were you using HCG?
Towards the end,
because
and something else.
at the time he was with a different clinic. The guy didn't give him a rundown on
He
like
just
these
said
are your
quit.
options. He
He
said
just
just
said
cut it
quit.
off, and it was so bad.
not the clinic with not Core Medical Group, not the ones I'm with now, but my old clinic.
And that is some. I don't know how long you were on it before you tried.
6-7 years.
Yeah, I mean you can't. So it is. It's something you can just quit, and a lot of people bump up. But you had hypogonadism in the first place.
Fucking miserable.
Yeah, so that's the thing. You had hypogonadism in the first place.
Wasn't
just quitting.
sleeping. Wasn't able, no appetite.
I would work out and I would be sore for 3 weeks.
Yeah, I mean because you had hypogonadism. I mean it was just that low. Whereas some people they were put on it inappropriately. Probably you were not. People that get put on inappropriately, you stop them and like they bounce back pretty quickly, and then they're fine. But for someone like you, I mean, they should have offered you a HCG, I think.
Well, so eventually they did, and then actually no, the person who did it was the person who did my surgery because he went in and because I had a vasectomy.
Urologist.
Yeah, so he went in and cut me open and pulled all the babies out.
We did a Tessie procedure instead of a reversal because they had been so long since he'd had the vasectomy. It was like over 14 years. So he did this Tessie procedure. They pull it out, and then that's why we had to do IVF.
Millions of babies sitting on ice somewhere. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Right? It's crazy. And now we have a redheaded child.
Wow.
And,
look at that. Look at that.
Science, man. So so anyways, he put me on HCG after once I got in touch with him because I came off to get ready because I knew I wanted to produce. So he put me on HCG and then Clomid.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he
there
said,
you go.
yeah, and he went in.
How'd you feel on that without the testosterone?
I started to feel better. You know what actually made a big difference was vitamin D and zinc.
You just messed your microphone.
I know, it's like a $700 microphone too.
pouring Fresco.
Pouring Fresco on there. It's artificial sweetener all over my microphone. Yeah, so I vitamin D and zinc. A buddy of mine, Josh, my partner, he said, I called him. I said, dude, listen, I'm struggling.
Yeah.
And he had gone through the same thing.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, what are you, he talked about supplementation. And I don't know why I overthought it or didn't think about it. But he's like, are you taking any vitamin D? Are you doing anything? I said, no. He said, I'll order you some from Thorne and go from there. And actually, that did help.
So
but once HCG and Clomid, I started to feel more normal. Not good, but
better.
But I could get through my day.
Yeah. So that's an interesting thing because if you have primary hypogonadism at the level of your testicles, the HCG, it wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have done anything. Because if your balls don't work, there's nothing to stimulate them.
Yeah.
But because it's more of your brain, in your pituitary at that level. They call it secondary. Having that HCG is like the signal from your brain, the LH, the luteinizing hormone, stimulating. So
that's with the hormone. Because so it's when I went to the brain clinic, he goes, "How is the quality of your orgasms?" And he was a doc that worked with a lot of special operators, a lot of Navy SEALs, all the guys that have books written about him or have written books have been through his clinic as well. And he goes, "How's the quality of orgasm?" He's like, "You putting holes in sheetrock, or you just like dribbling out, or like is it strong, or is it like just take it or leave it?" And he said, "Because your luteinizing hormone is really low."
See, there you go. Secondary hypogonadism.
Yeah,
kind of classic textbook, I would say.
There you go.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So regarding women.
Real quick. So her mom, I hope God she doesn't listen to this.
Oh my God.
Her mom was going through menopause, got with a clinic, and it reversed. And she's almost 60?
60.
And
she's 60.
He told her, and her dad's on TRT as well at 60 something. And she goes, "You guys need to be very careful.
You don't
because technically, you can get pregnant."
But if she didn't have any eggs anymore, that's what doesn't make any sense.
I don't know if I don't know about that, but he's basically she has a period.
Yeah. I mean, you can if you do like take it on and off. That's interesting.
How'd you feel about that, babe? Your mom gets pregnant.
Stop talking about
it. Yeah, but so similar with guys, it's like, okay, if your quality of life's going down, like, look, we're not getting out of this life alive. So like, personally, I would like to feel good no matter what.
Yeah.
It's kind of this balance, doctors are supposed to do no harm, right? So we don't want to decrease somebody's lifespan, but we shouldn't be decreasing their quality of life either. So that should be a discussion though. Like, honestly, that's why some people go, nope, you're in normal range. You kind of feel crappy. I like to do trials with people and like, oh man, I'm feeling better as long as I'm not bumping those numbers up to super physiological levels and watching their hematocrit. And it's like, I do feel a lot better. And then maybe it was hypogonadism. And there are lots of things that we can't find an true underlying cause for. You look for prolactinomas and all sorts of different things, secondary and primary causes. If you can't find anything, it might be lifestyle related. And then, as they age, maybe it makes them feel better. It's a big controversy amongst, urologists, endocrinologists, and everything in between. So I just talk to the patients and kind of go from there. I specialize.
Everybody's
a special.
Everybody's a special butterfly.
Yes. Yeah. You are somebody special. Some Project Charlie. I had that when I was younger.
You're a great doctor, man. That would make you feel so like, oh, I'm a special butterfly. So I don't want to step on your question, babe, but I'm going to switch to.
No, go ahead.
So on that whole thing especially with women, you got somebody that is, and I've seen this. You got somebody that say they're a 38-year-old woman. They're say 40 pounds overweight. Okay. And they're eating 1,500 calories a day and not losing weight.
What's the question?
The question?
So,
they're 40 pounds overweight.
Yeah.
And how much do they weigh currently?
Say 200.
And they're eating 1,500 calories?
Yeah, and they're tall.
So in many of these cases, they're probably eating more than they think they are.
That's always my go-to. I'm like, are you really? But hypothetically, say they really are eating 1,500 calories.
But how do you know that they're eating 1,500?
I guess you don't. You have to trust them.
So here's the thing. I'm going to tell you this. Nobody's eating.
Just be honest.
They're not eating that much.
They're not eating that much.
And everybody on my Instagram will swear up and down. Now, you see thinner, leaner physique women, they get to a point where it's like they're so lean and they're so small.
Yeah.
They're like feel like they're eating nothing. And yeah, they're probably eating like 800,000 calories, whatever, not much. And they're not losing much.
Yeah.
And it's because they're so petite, they're not burning much either at this point. But someone who's 200 pounds trying to eat 1,500 calories, it's just not happening. So what? And it doesn't mean they're not trying though. This is the issue. So someone on the internet be like, you're eating more than you think you are. That's not really helpful. They think they're eating that much.
Yeah.
They say they're weighing everything. Here's the thing. They'll come to me, and I have to gently say, well, sometimes we don't eat in the lab. We're not fed by a metabolic kitchen, which is where they weigh every morsel of food that goes into your body.
Yeah.
They don't measure
oil, salt, everything. Yeah.
They're not. They follow your metabolic rate. They can see the mixture.
Do these places exist? Because I'm interested in
Yeah.
playing
Wait a
with
minute.
that.
My buddy at the NIH runs a metabolic ward. It's actually, I wish I had so much money that I could build one. And because there's so many people with PCOS and all these different things that claim that they're eating 1,200, it's like, okay, well let's put you in this highly rigorous lab to see how much you're burning, and then we'll see and we'll feed you. Because what ends up happening, I can do this because I can give them drugs. I can give them very powerful appetite suppressants. Every time, I'm only eating 1,500 calories. Okay, well, according to my calculations, even if we're off by like 20%, you should still be losing X amount of weight. But I'll believe you. I don't believe you necessarily, but I understand that you're trying very hard to do that. So then I'll give them an appetite suppressant. Boom, 50 pounds off. So what does that mean? They're only eating 800
1,000?
calories.
Yeah.
1,000 calories. No. It's just that they weren't eating 1,500 calories because it's hard. It's actually not much food. Have you ever like 1,500 calories is like nothing. So then
my
the lowest
macros
I've ever
are
went.
1633.
Yeah, that's got to be. You got to be pretty.
It's pretty challenging, and you cannot snack at all. Well, yeah, there's
and
no.
You got to be pretty precise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's.
I feel bad for him. I am not on those macros.
I eat like 3,000 to 4,000. I mean, it's a lot.
I'm eating close to 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're similar.
I have
similar.
I'm like, she's like, does it fit? I'm like, it all fits.
Just throw it in.
Just
there.
throw it in there.
I did a bodybuilding competition in 2014, my one and only, and probably it'll be my only one. But I got down to a point where I was supposed to be eating 2,200 calories. It was just 20. So like if we're telling women to eat 1,200, 1,500 calories, it's like it's nothing. I was eating 2,200 calories and I was miserable, and I wasn't actually eating. If I'm being honest, it was probably more like 2,800 calories.
What were you missing?
What was I?
Just snacking on.
Like it got to a point where strawberries felt like a dessert, so I'd eat a whole carton of strawberries real quick, and it was just like I needed that because I'm dying here. Yeah. So like imagine if me trying to eat 2,200 calories, which is people would be like,
I got down to 1,750 one time.
He was doing a cut. Same thing.
1,750
for you.
My brain stopped working.
Yeah. My wife,
I remember I had to, it was like 1:00 in the afternoon. I had to go home and lay on the floor.
Yeah.
I just couldn't think. Couldn't even talk.
I was in my last year of training, and in the hospital, I was going back and getting espresso shots, and it just like didn't even do anything. It did nothing.
Yeah.
And I was really irritable. My wife, she was like, dude, you're really moody right now. She'd be like, go get the mail. I'm like, fuck you, go get the mail. And then she's like, well, fuck you. And then we start fighting. I'm like, why did we just fight about the mail? I was like, this doesn't even make
What is wrong with me?
Yeah, this doesn't even make any sense. It was bad. I can never do that again because some people who are just, I don't know, it doesn't bother them as much, bodybuilders.
Yeah.
I like to go eat tacos and whatever. I eat pizza. And,
yeah.
Not all the time, but
you make fun of it. You're like, I'm gonna go do shirtless selfies with my pizza.
Yeah. I'm gonna eat some pizza while showing off my ass, but not as chiseled as what it could be, but good enough.
Yeah.
So like, I wouldn't eat that little anymore. But I don't even know how we got talking about that.
So basically, if they're not losing weight, they're probably not focused on what they're actually consuming.
They're probably eating. So there could be a few things. They may be very sedentary. That's possible, but a lot of them.
Most people are.
I walk 10,000 steps. They show their Fitbit.
Yeah.
And they're like, I'm doing tons of cardio and I'm lifting weights and doing whatever, and I swear I'm only eating 1,500 calories and I'm not budging from 200 pounds. Now, if they were like 120 pounds, 150 pounds, you start getting into this where there is a level of variance. But if somebody's got a lot of weight to lose and they're eating very little, doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. They've done studies on this, and they've actually looked, and people eat 20 to 50% more than they actually think. Some people are eating a lot more than they think. And even though they say they're weighing everything, it's not that they're a bad person. It's not that they're intentionally lying. it's just that it's hard, and maybe they feel embarrassed. I don't know exactly.
Maybe the box is lying.
There are inaccuracies
Yeah.
on that, and your MyFitnessPal. So I'll give you a few examples of how this can happen. Had a patient, again, I tell them, eat lean protein. This comes in like it shows me the spare ribs they were eating, and I'm not losing any weight, and it's spare ribs with like all sorts of barbecue sauce on
Oh my gosh.
Just stuff like that, where I'm like, okay, what? And you can't get mad. You have to go, I understand you thought it was protein and whatever, but inside you're going, no. That's why and all my memes that I make, everything that I make is from patients and followers of stories. I can't make up this stuff. I can't. Like, how would I know? And that's why it's relatable, because people are like, I've done that before.
Yeah. That was my peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Yeah.
And so like that's why it's so funny. Is like, in fact, I should make a meme like, I can't lose weight. And I've actually done it. I can't lose weight despite 1,200 calorie starter pack.
Yeah.
And it's like ribs and ketchup
rotisserie
and mayo,
chicken and
stuff that like
handfuls of nuts.
that just builds up,
Yeah.
that you just don't even realize. Like, I'm eating 1,200 calories. Why can't I lose weight? I'm 200 pounds. And it's very similar. You just don't account for whatever else. And you might take you're doing food for the family, a meal for the family.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, here's some chips I'm just going to eat while I'm cooking. I know, because I've done that before. Yeah, all these little bite licks and taste, or whatever you call them, BLTs. So someone, they're not eating that. They're eating more than they think.
So what would you do? Just drop them down even lower?
No, not necessarily.
No.
Dropping them down lower may make it worse.
Really?
You may bump it up.
But yeah.
So you bump it up. So here's what happens. Maybe some days they do eat 1,500 calories.
I bump it up.
Yeah.
And they're all like, no.
Yeah.
That even happens to her too. She's like, I'm going to bump your calories up.
It
She's like,
depends
no.
on the person. So that's where
Yeah.
they go, they increased my calories and I lost 20 pounds. It's like, it wasn't it wasn't from eating more. You weren't
Yeah.
in starvation mode. That didn't actually happen. So what happens here is this, and nobody wants to admit this, but this is actually what happens. People are trying to eat 1,200, 1,500 calories, and it's just so low.
Yeah.
And they're on this dieting hamster wheel where they feel like they're just dieting so hard. Their perceived effort is very high.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to discount that, because it is. You're just trying.
That's
to
your
diet.
perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, they're trying to eat that much, but they binge or just. At times they don't. It's subconscious most of the time. They don't even realize it, to where they're not actually eating. They're eating like 2,000, 2,500 calories even sometimes.
That Lunesta, man, get you up for those late night snacks.
Yeah, the ambient eating.
Yeah.
The Lunesta eating.
Little Delta 8 action.
Yeah. So then you go, okay, maybe you're too low. Let's give you a little bit more room. Let's go up to 1,700 or 1,800 calories, and all of a sudden it's like, wait, this is actually doable. I'm not super hungry.
I'm not losing my mind every day.
Yeah, or they have that cookie that they always wanted, and it just holds them at bay. And then they start dropping the weight, because before they were actually eating like 2,500 calories or something like that. That's usually what happens. There are other cases where they might be just so tired and hungry where they're not moving as much. It can all play a role, because if you're not moving that much, obviously you're not going to be burning as much either. But I'd say that's minimal, because honestly, in some of these people, they say they're eating, 1,200 calories. They're 200, 250 pounds. And I'm like,
Not happening.
literally impossible, but you have to have a good bedside manner. I don't have to here, because I'm just kind of talking about the situations, but
He's calling all of you a liar.
well, that's why my memes, so my patients really appreciate the memes, because I don't have to tell them directly that they're lying.
They're looking at it like, is that about me?
They go, you know what? They go, you know what? I heard you loud and clear. And it's hard, because I want to say it to your face, but you can't.
Take it.
It's not. They will be like, I don't want you as you're a jerk.
You're an asshole.
Yeah. But I can be an asshole on the memes, and some people still think I'm an asshole, but my patients know that I'm loving, and they'll.
Yeah.
It's a way for me to indirectly address it.
Yeah.
And it's worked phenomenally with patients. So
Hell, it works for me. Sometimes I'm almost like, oh damn, you just slapped
shit.
me in the face with a meme.
So 1,200. They say they're eating 1,200 calories. I give them an appetite suppressant, 50 pounds, 100 pounds sometimes.
That's crazy.
And it's like, well, physically, it wouldn't be possible.
Yeah.
Like, what, you're just eating nothing now. So Yeah, so it's just appetite. They're hungry, and that's okay. I think it's hard for people to admit that because it feels like I feel like a failure.
And I think that period with the quality of food, the types of food that we're talking about at the beginning, plays a big part into it. So I've also heard you talk about. I think that was you talking about weight loss and cardio versus lifting weights.
Yeah.
And everybody thinks I can't lift weights. I just have to do a ton of cardio.
Yeah.
And are you able to articulate why strength training is actually good for weight loss?
Fat loss.
Fat loss.
Fat loss. There you go.
Very
good. Thanks, babe.
There.
Yeah.
So here's the deal. This is kind of newer research. Herman Ponzer, great guy, wrote this book called Burn. I'm in a Twitter DM group with some very big time energy metabolism.
That's some big stuff, big people stuff, right? I didn't even know that you could do that.
Like I'm in with some of these brilliant scientists, researchers, and I'm here more the clinician. I'm doing research, but I'm not on their level in research. I try to translate what they take in research and put it into a practical clinical manners and memes. So what it comes to is that we have a finite amount of energy we can burn during the day. So we say eat less, move more. There's only so much more we can move, and then at some point, even if we keep moving more and more and more, if we're exercising all day, we're going to have this limit. It becomes like it jumps up in how much energy we're burning, and then it starts leveling off, even if we're adding more and more exercise. And the reason is they call it the constrained energy expenditure hypothesis. It's constrained. We can only burn so many calories in a day, even if we try to exercise and move more.
Right.
So there becomes a point where exercise just isn't going to be helpful. Now there are also some issues.
You just made a lot of people happy.
Yeah.
They're like,
and that's what. So then people are like, great, I'm going to quit. And it's like, no, don't do that. Move as much as you can. So then. So we get to a point where we can't burn more calories. We can do 2 more hours of cardio. Sure, you might burn a little bit more, but there are other things that happen. So in the time that we're not exercising, maybe you don't feel like getting off the couch as much. Maybe you're not moving it. So that's contested a little bit. It's called the non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So any energy that we burn that's not our basal metabolic rate or energy we burn while metabolizing food or purposeful exercise, we call it non-exercise activity thermogenesis. NEAT is the term. And so maybe that goes down in certain circumstances when we're trying to exercise tons more. So then we just don't burn that many more calories during the day. All right, so then what do you do? Okay, well, appetite also can start going up as you try to exercise more and more and more. So then we compensate by just eating more. So then it becomes the point where it's like, well, we just ate those calories that we just tried to burn. Right. So it's kind of futile to keep trying to burn more and more calories. So then adding in more cardio is probably not the answer. It may be slightly helpful. And if you look at randomized controlled trials, people do lose weight a little bit, a tiny little bit, 1% or 2% more when they add in aerobic training. Now, and where resistance training enters, first of all, if you're going to try to lose weight, you have to, diet's like by far more important than the exercise component. And this is corroborated by studies looking at diet versus exercise.
People get their shit together. They just quit out sugar and start walking 20 minutes a day and they lose weight.
Yeah. So if you're looking at cutting out 500 calories of food versus increasing your expenditure by 500 calories, the food is so much easier to do. So not only that, okay, so then your appetite goes up if you're trying to do cardio. So this is where the resistance training comes in. First of all, if you're doing cardio training, there can be some muscle sparing effect, but not nearly like resistance training. So if diet's the most important and you're trying to lose specifically fat, yeah, sure, you could ramp up your cardio, but then you start losing muscle and fat. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you add in at least a couple days of resistance training, you're holding onto that muscle. And the muscle is very important, not from just keeping your metabolic rate up. That's kind of an overblown myth. It's like, oh, if you keep all your muscle, your metabolism won't go down. Metabolism goes down no matter what as you diet. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you lose only fat. Fat's also metabolically active, not as much as muscle, but your metabolic rate will go down even if you lose only fat.
And your BMR is going to go down as well.
It all goes down.
Yeah.
But if you lift weights and hold on to your muscle, the stronger you are, the more that you can move. You actually burn more than when you are actually moving. So there is this component of the resistance training, not just resistance, not the calories you burn during resistance. Who cares about the calories you burn during resistance training? Sure, it's a nice added bonus, but it's more keeping that muscle while you lose the fat. So then you get to a point where as you walk and as you do just things during the day, you have more muscle, you actually burn more, right? So not only from the basal metabolic rate, maybe not going as low as if you lost muscle with it, that's overblown, but then the energy burn outside of that as well. Here's where I think it's more important though, and I don't know how to even prove this, but from what a purely nutrient...
You're an Instagram doctor, so you don't even have to prove it.
I don't even have to prove it. I'm just going to say I'm a pure authority. Just take this at face value. Nutrient partitioning, right? So if you're lifting weights and you're trying to lose, and you lost a bunch of fat and you're building some muscle, you're keeping your muscle, the more you lift weights, you're actually, like, the more food you eat, you're going to shuttle those nutrients towards muscle, right? As opposed to storing it or just burning it during cardio, you're actually going to shuttle it to your muscles to try to use it for recovery and building. So I think that you end up being able to eat more, not only from a metabolism standpoint, but also from a nutrient partitioning, building more fat as opposed to, or building more muscle as opposed to fat. That's what I think. It's a hypothesis of mine.
Okay.
I'm a little bit biased because I love resistance training, and I my most successful patients, they buy into the resistance training. They also do aerobic training. I don't tell them not to. I think they're both important.
Just not as, like, not
Don't
6-7 days a week doing.
It's going to be futile.
Yeah.
Keep moving as much as you can.
Yeah.
But resistance training, at least 2 times, ideally like 3 or 4 times a week. And they tend to be very successful. So that's the thing. And also people want to look good and feel good, and that's where resistance training comes in versus just cardio.
So from the doctor, take testosterone, eat meat.
Androgel baths with
and Jack Steele.
Injections, HCG, nandrolone, whatever, Anavar. And never give up, right? That's the
So you mentioned it earlier. What is PCOS?
Polycystic ovarian syndrome, very complex condition in
This
women.
is what my sister had.
Yes, and I actually was just going to ask you also briefly how you, because I've noticed on your page it's one of your highlights, your PCOS diet, and then as well as like some of the breastfeeding templates from your book. That book saved my life, by the way. Oh yeah,
nice.
And all of that, like, what kind of got you in that niche? How did you kind of start getting interested, or did you have a lot of patients that were?
Yeah, a lot of patients like that. RP came to me and said, we want a health component, like this medical component to RP. And
Smart.
I said, sure. So I formed another LLC, and it's kind of like a sister company, and I own most of this one. And a lot of women that are on Instagram that want to lose weight, a lot of them that struggle have PCOS. There's multiple reasons for this. I've made a few videos on it, but polycystic ovarian syndrome, complex metabolic condition that is an interplay between genetics and environment. Nobody knows exactly why it happens, but what we see is fertility issues, ovulation issues. You start seeing higher androgen levels in women's hirsutism, a little bit extra hair growth, maybe some acne and that type of thing. And the biggest thing is like fertility. People are like, well, I'm starting to miss my periods are irregular now. That's where kind of people see it. And then they're like, oh gosh, you have some of these other criteria. And you don't even have to do an ultrasound necessarily to see if they have these extra, they're follicles really. They're not truly cysts, but they're extra follicles not going through the
basically if they stay in your ovaries instead of you actually ovulating and releasing them, then they can create the follicular cysts, and then that's what it is essentially.
So they call it PCOS, but they may end up changing the name of this at some point. There's a lot of controversy there. Either way, I think it's people use the name and it's kind of colloquial now. It's well known at this point, but I think at some point to better be a better describer of the condition, they're going to probably change it. But so you have irregular periods, you have the cysts in quotes on ultrasound,
which is causing pain.
you can have certain pain sometimes not.
Okay.
It can be really frustrating though, and then you have these hyperandrogen symptoms, acne, some extra hair, and then there's a subset of women with PCOS that it just seems like the weight is somehow associated with it. I don't say that like obesity causes it, because not everybody with obesity will develop PCOS. It's something in the genetics environment that's interacting in it, and then it expresses itself in the PCOS. So some people who are very lean have PCOS too. So it's not just a stereotypical set of people, a set of conditions. But you tend to see these clusters in different types of, we call them different types of PCOS. You could even find literature that looks into these different characteristics of types of women who are lean. Maybe they have more androgen symptoms, maybe not. Maybe it's just all fertility or whatever. So that's PCOS. And we got into it basically because there's a lot of women who struggle to lose weight with PCOS. And the reason is they've looked at metabolic rate differences. There might be some metabolic rate differences. What I think is the biggest thing is where it comes back to appetite. The insulin resistance that occurs with PCOS, there tends to be there's probably some inflammatory things going on that disrupt that connection between your belly, your gut, appetite, and your reward center too, maybe craving certain foods more than others. And so then it's like, oh, they're just eating more. Well, maybe, but it's just a barrier. Maybe it causes people to kind of eat a little bit more than they think. Maybe their metabolic rate is a little bit lower. I think that needs to be studied more, but...
I mean, all it takes is an extra 400 calories.
Yeah. So, and subconsciously.
Yeah.
You know, so, and then the other thing with the androgens and how the insulin resistance is, there may be a preferential storage of fat tissue in places that are unwanted. Abdominally, like visceral fat too. The stuff that you can't pinch underneath around your organs. So all these clusters of things these women come in with a difficulty of losing weight, and they find out they have PCOS. Now, the thing is, though, the principles don't really change. We still have to find a way to improve eating. Some people will say, well, then they can't eat carbs because the increasing your insulin actually increases the androgen due to the sensitivity of the ovaries and everything to the to LH and all this stuff. So that's not necessarily true, though, either. You don't have to go keto if you have PCOS. Energy balance still matters. Quality of food probably still does matter too, especially for appetite purposes. But we found different methods to kind of help those with PCOS lose weight without doing the same other type of dietary patterns they're used to and being sold all over the Instagram, like you can't eat dairy, you got to go keto, you can't eat gluten, and all these different things. None of those things are necessarily true. So we're actually working on a book. I have a reproductive endocrinologist I'm working with who has PCOS herself, and we're going to kind of come up with an even better resource out there for women. So
freaking awesome. It's crazy too, because I want to know too, like I just know over the last 10 years, and maybe it's because it's at the forefront of my mind just because we've been dealing with it with doing the IVF process and everything, you know, just really deep diving into looking at your ovaries and your uterus like all the time. Like
up close.
Right.
Yeah.
But it seems like fertility has really dropped like as a whole in our country. Like it's really gone down. And, you know, obviously there's a lot of environmental factors. We've talked a lot about some of that stuff on this podcast, even with just like plastics and parabens and different things that can affect your hormone levels and all that stuff. But like, as far as that specifically, I wondered if you felt like it's, obviously you can't cure it necessarily with food, but do you feel like it's something that you can, like with the diet, because your diet specifically for it is something that you can heal or...
Yeah, so that's another myth, and people get so mad about like, you just need to lose weight, it will cure your PCOS. But the weight didn't necessarily cause it. It might have exacerbated this underlying. Again, this is why it's I whenever I've done research to try to do a resource for PCOS, the brightest researchers and physicians and people focusing the research specifically on PCOS, it always, the classic line at the beginning of the review says, PCOS is a complex condition that that is an interplay between genetics and environment, and it's kind of this nebulous thing. We do have specific understanding of what we call the pathophysiology, but like it's still so poorly understood that like I feel like we don't know what we're doing exactly, but we do know that improving diet, improving weight does improve fertility. Women start ovulating when they get a little bit leaner. Androgens start improving when you lose a little bit of weight, and that has to probably do with the insulin resistance improving and things like that. So you can't cure it, but you can improve some of the symptoms. And the thing is, with my templates and book, I try to be very clear, because there are a lot of desperate women out there,
right.
like they just want to have a baby, and I don't want to prey on. So I'm just like, if you're trying to lose weight, I'm not going to promise you can get pregnant, but I can promise you that I can help you lose weight at least.
Yeah. And
so
they can find that on your Instagram too, right?
Yeah, and we're going to be redoing the templates.
we'll put it in the show, the links in the show notes as well.
We're going to be launching the book here soon. It's going to be pretty in depth. I got a really good registered dietitian that's writing the book with me, and then the reproductive endocrinologist. I think it's going to be a great resource. So.
When I referenced earlier, just FYI, the breastfeeding and nutrition book is also on the RP Strength website, and I've had so many people hit me up about it, because I was strength training the whole time I was, breastfeeding and everything, and so
like, you're doing too much.
And everybody kept saying that, like, there's no way. How do you even have breast milk? And I'm like, I mean, I do.
Yeah, like what are you talking about? Yeah, so that's another. I mean, there are lots of myths there that like. No, you can lose weight after you have a baby.
I personally think that it just came down to they felt you made them feel bad because they didn't do what you were doing.
Yeah, no, that can be what do you want to say? Misery likes company or whatever. Like that's true. So sometimes you see people losing weight, like, oh, you're too thin, and it's like, don't sabotage me. I'm fine. I'm doing fine. You can safely lose weight after having a baby. The biggest issue is like telling somebody they should lose weight, and they're so stressed, and like. They just had a baby. They're trying to breastfeed. The baby's not latching. Maybe you're not producing as much milk as you could. And
she was fine.
So then losing weight, you can start reducing how much milk you're producing. But then if you're not hydrated, all these different things. Yeah. Stressful time. So the last thing I want to do is like, you must lose weight. But if somebody wants to, they can do it safely.
And that's what that book is about.
That's what awesome. I told her. I was like, you just chill out.
That for me, like the hardest part of the whole process is being fat.
Oh, it's tough.
Yes. So I appreciate it. I love it.
I'm glad you like that.
So keto's bad.
Ketogenic. Have you talked about ketogenic diets on this
No,
before?
Never? No. I don't think so. And even in the other episodes, I don't think it's ever been brought up.
So most people say we need to eat carbs because it helps us with energy, but then there's a group of people who like carbs are causing all of our disease. That's not necessarily true, but
do these people live under subways and like in clans, wearing all leather?
Pretty much.
Tires as shoulder guards.
Pretty much with spikes and other types of things. So the truth is, we can absolutely live off of fat. Fat can be converted into. We can burn fat. And then we can also
as energy
produce ketones. Now the thing is, our brain. Everybody says our brain needs glucose to survive, but the brain can use ketones. And the truth is, carbohydrates are not essential. Essential means we have to get a source of it. Same thing with certain micronutrients, vitamins, and minerals that they're essential because our body cannot produce them, make them. So carbohydrates. Not technically essential, but most would probably say optimal if we do include them into our diet. But so ketogenic diets are basically where you eat about 20, maybe 30% of your diet from protein, and 70-75% from fat, and basically 5 to 10% of your diet from carbohydrates. Or you could look at it as grams of carbohydrates per day. Usually you're eating under 50 grams of carbohydrates per day. You can look, it depends, because if you're eating if you're eating 5,000 calories somehow and you're eating 10
for weight loss.
Yeah, if you're eating 5 to 10% of that ends up being more carbohydrates. So you can look at grams of carbohydrates. And what happens is that you can actually check your blood ketone levels because you start producing them because you don't have any carbohydrates. And you can actually check your levels and everything. The crazy,
I've done it all.
The
I've
biohackers.
I've peed on sticks and the whole 9 yards. Yeah.
For your the TBI thing, I'm sure someone probably tried to.
Well, I
sell
mean,
you on that.
I like to treat my body kind of like a carnival.
Yeah,
And just
let's go for a ride.
I just try it all because honestly I want to know.
Yeah.
You know,
I've
I want to have the experience.
I've done it.
It was not for me.
Yeah.
At all. Whatsoever.
How long did you do it for?
We did it for over
6
2
months?
Yeah.
Oh,
over,
wow, that's a long time.
We were trying it, and the biggest issues that I have with obviously are like I just don't understand how I'm not supposed to eat any vegetables. Like
Yeah.
this is nuts.
I mean, you could have like spinach. You know, very.
I wasn't able to
wasn't
stay
for
in
me.
ketosis with 20 grams of
Wow.
carbs.
Yeah,
so I
that's
mean,
low.
like asparagus,
That's
like
very low.
I did better than she did, but I
Yeah.
just didn't feel as good.
No.
Yeah.
It took me a few weeks. And then I got fat adapted, keto
Yeah,
adapted,
same thing.
And then
About 3
and then
weeks
I
for
could
me.
work out pretty well, but
Yeah.
it was just like, this isn't for me either. And so the thing is, here are the two diet. You know, people will be like, keto's horrible for you. These are like the plant-based, like vegan types.
Yeah.
Keto's horrible for you. You need fruit, carbohydrates, whatever. Then you got the keto zealots, the low carb zealots, who I love making fun of.
Well, I mean, there's people out there that have built an entire career on
Yes.
this methodology.
And they fear-monger carbohydrates
Mm-hmm.
and say they're inherently unhealthy, which is absolutely untrue. The truth is somewhere in the middle, of course.
Yeah.
Same with
Always.
like TRT or whatever. There are people that ketogenic diet is very therapeutic. So, for example, epileptics
Mm-hmm.
who for some reason can't tolerate or use seizure medication, epileptic medicine. Certain types of epileptics, not all of them, may benefit from a ketogenic diet. I'm not a neurologist, so I don't even mess with those types of patients.
Yeah.
What I see, though, are those with type 2 diabetes
Mm-hmm.
who a therapeutic reduction in carbohydrate not only will help with weight loss, just from a lower energy balance. So ketogenic diets can help with weight loss for two reasons. A lot of people think it's the insulin and the carbohydrates increase insulin that's going to trap the fat, so you can't lose fat.
I have my own theory. I don't think it has anything to do with laboratory.
Yeah. So the insulin that has nothing. They've tested this multiple times. That's not even true. What happens is that it's a very restricted diet. You can't actually eat certain things that people like to eat a lot of. Cookies, cakes. You can make keto cakes and whatever. They taste like garbage. And then actually what's funny is those people that tend to overeat on those, they tend to not lose much weight on ketogenic diet. Why? Because you're still eating more calories. It doesn't matter if it's fat. It wasn't the carbohydrates.
So do you think keto is a tool for really overweight people?
It can be.
That's what my brother did.
It can be. So it has therapeutic restriction. You can only eat certain amounts of food, certain types of food. And then in some people, they find a satiety benefit from it.
See, that's what I think.
His was, yeah.
That's what I think happens.
Yeah.
I think that people eat because fat is so satiate. You know, what's the word?
Satiating.
Yeah, like I think that you eat a big T-bone
Yeah.
with some butter, and you're like, "Fuck, I feel good."
Yeah.
I'm
And they're good all day sometimes even. And it just digests slowly and
Right.
they feel good.
And-
And you stick to that. The fewer times you eat the quote unquote junk food, high processed carb, fat,
the people that are successful with it, in my opinion, is that.
Yeah.
It's that they're eating less, they're satiated more, and they're just eating less.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to.
Yeah. And that's it. And
Yeah.
so that's what happens.
Which is great. Hey, you lose weight, that's
Yeah.
good. But then my question to you is long-term ketosis.
Yeah. So
What does that do for your cholesterol? What is the
Your
ketones
brain.
on your brain? Yeah.
So it's being studied. I'm going to be one of the first people to publish the effects of that on atherosclerosis. We're looking at people that have. There's some people.
Then
that
you can have medical doctrine on.
I know.
on like why.
I'm going to be like,
My meme is
I'm
legit.
like, this is my research. This is a real meme. So there are some people that have explosive cholesterol levels from ketogenic diets, and there's multiple theories why. Many people think it's just the saturated fat, lack of polyunsaturated, monounsaturated fat, and lack of soluble fiber. I think that's a big component. My research buddy, who's an engineer, kind of crazy, Dave, he thinks it's this lipid energy model. or basically the cholesterol ends up being higher because of how it's trafficked in our body. Whatever, it doesn't really matter. Some people have looks like they have genetic mutations for how high their LDL gets up to 500, 600, 700. So we're actually going to be studying we're going to be the first ones to study the effects, the safety effect. Like, is this safe with people that cholesterol that high in terms of atherosclerosis? We just don't know. Honestly, like, it should be what I call deleterious. It should be harmful, like if your cholesterol is going that high. But we're going to study it because there are people that don't care what I say or what cardiologists or anybody says. I feel better. You know, like you said, quality of life. They feel better on the ketogenic diet. They don't care if their cholesterol goes high. They'd rather have, if they think it's probably safe, but even if it caused them to have a heart attack, they just feel so much better that they're not going to go.
I don't think you're going to feel better with a heart attack, but that's...
I don't think so either. and they're adamant that once you go keto, it doesn't matter what your cholesterol. It doesn't make sense to me. They have their own theories and hypotheses, but I'm going to be the first one to study it, like with this group of researchers from UCLA.
That'll be interesting.
It's actually really cool. I'm very excited about it. We're
How long does a process like that take?
A year. So you do what's called a CTA. You look at an angiogram with a CT scan and you inject the stuff, do a CT scan, and look at the vessels of the heart. And it's so sensitive. You can actually track changes in the soft plaque. The hard plaque is a lot of times what you see with like a coronary artery calcium score, but you want to see that changes in the soft plaque that doesn't show up as calcium. So soft plaque can change a lot even within a year. So we're going to get an initial scan and we're going to get a scan in a year and see. Now, we don't have a group of people who aren't doing keto to compare to, so that would be better if we could do a randomized thing, but it's really hard to do that. So we're just starting with this pilot safety thing to just see, like, hey, are they rapidly progressing, or do they have any progression? I don't know. So it'll be interesting. I personally think that if somebody's not having cholesterol issues on it and they feel pretty good, I think it's relatively safe. People are worried about bone loss and all sorts of issues, but I think we just need more studies on it. I don't know. Personally, I wouldn't do it, but
no, I've done it.
Yeah, I think you did it too, though, because your brain doctor recommended keto diet for anyone with a TBI.
Yeah, that's a common thing. People are actually studying it right now.
And so we did that. That's why we did it. Was we switched? Both of us switched because I'm like, if he's gonna do it, I got to do it. Make sure I can cook.
You're going along with it.
She'll just jump on whatever.
I can't cook 2 meals. So.
Yeah, she ain't doing that.
We did it for that little bit of time.
I have one no that I have to bring up.
All right,
I should have like prepped you for this.
What is this?
It's about the vid.
The vid?
Yeah.
Oh, COVID.
Yeah.
I'm like, the vid. What video? Oh God, you guys found a video.
Code words, man. Code words.
Oh yeah, because it was gonna get get taken off.
Right.
Yeah.
So from what I've seen in the past, and you could have completely changed your stance on this, but you were pretty pro-vaccine.
Yeah, right before I came here, I got my booster.
You did.
So
and you're proud of that.
If I grow an extra penis while I'm sitting here,
that's actually now if that's a side effect, shit, man, sign me up.
Yeah.
So with everything going on, you know, and listen, for all you listeners out there, keep it in your pants. Everybody chill the hell out. Remember back in the day where like 2 people could have an opinion on different things and they could walk away friends? Like, can we get back to that? Please?
Not on Facebook. I'll tell you what, I made.
It drives me nuts, man. I'm like, I can have friends that are other, you know, political views, other views, and we can discuss this thing.
I made a meme. That's what I do. I make memes. I made a meme. I was like, so I was thinking about this because I see a lot of my doctor friends who are almost like shaming, like, you're a piece of shit if you haven't gotten vaccinated and these types of things. And I'm like, okay. That's not how you change behavior. If you want somebody to get vaccinated, probably telling them they're a piece of shit will probably be like, no, fuck you, I'm not getting vaccinated.
That's usually the direction I go.
So anyway, I think it's kind of an interesting phenomenon. whatever you want to ask, I am game. So, and if anybody in the comments wants to call me a soy beta cuck boy, I'm okay with that.
Damn,
But,
damn, that's
that went straight to the heart.
Has that drama been dropped on you before?
oh yeah, that's why I'm like. I'll
First
call
of all,
myself-
soy is good for you.
Yes. Beta
tell you
cuck,
that.
soy boy.
We have an interesting story about soy. Because everybody talks about soy and estrogen and all this kind of stuff. And we actually have labs with her where she went plant-based for a while and was consuming a lot of soy.
Oh,
and her estrogen went from 300 something to 19.
It's like 297 to 19.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Right? But it was all organic. It wasn't like...
But periods didn't
estrogens.
change?
Well, my periods change?
Did the periods change?
I don't even know. I did it in like a period of 3 weeks, so I don't even know if I had.
Oh.
Yeah.
It was a very quick... And it was because we were doing the IVF process, and
okay.
because of that same reason, I was getting the follicular cysts because they were giving me this drug that was making you not ovulate, so that they could keep the follicles growing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it caused me then to have the cyst, the whole thing. So we were doing weekly blood tests, and I had read something that said, taking animal products out of your diet for a bit can help your hormone levels. Yeah. And I thought, you know what?
Just do it.
Let's just do it. It's not going to hurt
They
me.
didn't understand how she got it so low so fast. Because we weren't going to be able to do the IVF process until she got it down.
And
Wow.
yeah, and they were impressed with it too. But I mean, that coupled with all the other things we've talked about.
I don't buy it. Anyways, so the vax, the juice. I'm on the opposite opinion. I don't want to say fear. I'm not fearful, but I'm like, I just don't, to me, it doesn't, there's a lot of things that don't make sense.
Yeah.
So I want to hear, and a lot of my viewers I'm sure they're all same with me. I mean, I probably got, a good handful of people that have
There's
done
like
it.
10 people on my side. Somebody be on my side.
There's
All of your military listeners have to get vaccinated.
Yeah,
so I'm
there's-
sure.
Yeah. But that's a whole other conversation. My thing is, I don't give a shit. Like, this is still America. If you want to go get a vaccine that they're offering, go get it. That's your choice, man.
Yeah.
You want to do whatever you want to do. Like, it's still America. You want to eat keto and look 50 at 30, fucking knock yourself out, man.
Yeah.
That's what's great about this country. But I'm curious from your point of view, because I haven't had anybody really articulate like the reason, because otherwise it's like, well, it's to protect you. But is it to protect you or to protect me?
Yeah.
It's like this whole round robin thing.
Yes.
So like,
right. No, it's a great question. So it's built. It's supposed to be, the whole point of like every vaccine is to not only to protect you, it's to protect everybody. The whole idea of public health, because seatbelts.
right.
Why? Here's what I like. Why would I care if somebody doesn't wear a seatbelt, unless it's my kid in the back or my wife or something like that? If somebody wants to go flying through their windshield, unless they're going to hit me through the windshield, I don't care if somebody else wears.
That's on you.
Right.
Yeah.
So with the vaccine, the whole purpose, and they weren't sure of this at the beginning, because certain diseases and vaccines, it may not work right. So like this, for example, let's say HPV. There's a vaccine for that, and eventually, if somebody gets the vaccine, they shouldn't contract the HPV, and then they shouldn't be spreading it, and then eventually, cervical cancer.
The theory
should be gone.
Should be gone. Right.
So like polio eradicated. All these, well, not complete. Smallpox, we'll say.
Yeah.
The more people that get vaccinated, less and less transmission, less and less giving it to people, transmitting to people that maybe not able to get the vaccine. That's the whole idea. So then, someone that says, I'm not getting the vaccine, why do you care if it's so effective? Well, they're not 100% effective. There's still breakthrough cases with people that have.
Yeah, of course.
So
now they're saying that people are getting COVID. It's just they're not getting it as bad.
Yeah. So with the vaccine. So so I'm vaccinated. Let's say you have you had COVID and you're here and talking to me.
Pretty sure I did.
When was that?
I mean,
2
I
months
don't know
ago,
if it was
July?
COVID or the Delta variant.
You
Is
felt
that what they're
pretty
calling
bad.
it?
You didn't get tested?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not getting tested.
You're just like whatever. You were like laid up though.
Laid up in
I
bed.
mean, I took meds, and I was sick for a little while.
Yeah. Lost your smell?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Hard to know. There's a lot of.
She did, but I didn't.
Around the same time.
In July,
we were both sick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably
July we
then.
both
Yeah.
did.
Because I've never lost my smell with anything. So everybody's talking about. Anyway, it's kind of an interesting thing.
Yeah.
So let's say you had, or let's say I was around somebody with COVID, and now you're unvaccinated.
Yeah.
It's possible that I had a very mild breakthrough case and passed it to you.
Okay.
It's very possible.
Yeah.
So that's where there's a misconception that I'm immune, I can't. It's very possible.
Yeah.
So the fact that it is possible, people say, well, they're not effective. In most cases, though, I will provide some sort of barrier, because if I don't contract COVID, I won't be able to spread it to you.
Okay.
But it's possible I have a very mild case that I didn't even notice, and then I could spread it to you.
Okay.
So it's true that you getting it should protect you, but the whole idea of everybody getting it and just stopping the propagation of it, which then, hypothetically increases if it keeps infecting more and more people, then it has chances to mutate, and then we just continue this whole cycle.
To play this game.
Yeah.
But then again, like, so you have the vaccine, you're protected.
Yes.
It's still my choice. Like
Yeah. Right. So
right?
that's
if I want to be the asshole and not wear my seatbelt.
So here's what people will say, and I'm not saying whether you're correct or incorrect. This is from a public health standpoint. People will say, but if you don't get it, then if you don't get the vaccine and then you get COVID and then you could spread it to other people. You see what?
But now they're saying,
your
but
choice
see,
is gonna affect
what I'm
other
hearing,
people.
and of course this is like the information on all of this is just
it's been
it's a shit show.
And honestly, our public health, I think the communication with our public health officials and whatever is just it's hard because let's say
I see more agenda than I do public health. If it was a public health, why didn't McDonald's get shut down? You know what I'm saying?
So,
give me a break.
Right. So I know. So that's what people bring that up, and
right.
I don't disagree. Right? How am I?
You
supposed
can't
to disagree
with that, right?
Because
That's part of your job.
If we're looking at obesity as a disease,
right,
and people have a tough time stopping themselves from getting that type of food, then let's prevent them from being able to get that food, right? I know. You could bring this any. You could, if I know. So I completely understand.
Are you worried? So like I get the whole vaccine because like smallpox, right? Like it could have wiped out the world, polio, all this kind of stuff. So I get it, and I'm not necessarily anti-vaccine. I think that there's maybe 40, 50 years ago, the pharmaceutical companies maybe had a little bit better agenda than they probably do now. And it's big money. It's big money, right? Money, so. I mean, if you look at the past year and a half, where if I'm a forensic accountant, I'm trying to trace crime, I'm gonna follow the money. Yeah. So I look at the money, and anyways, so those vaccines, from what I'm understanding, are very different from what was produced rather quickly.
Yeah.
And do you have any concern about either what's in it or the way it was made or the kind of it? I mean,
yeah. So when this all started going on at the beginning of the pandemic, and you saw these, the off to the races to develop these different. I mean, so the mRNA vaccines seem to be the most beneficial when it comes to this, and at stopping severe disease and at stopping transmission and everything.
What are the old school ones, like the smallpox?
I can't remember. So that we had a mnemonic we do, but there's like live attenuated vaccines. There's live vaccines where they actually take tiny little pieces of the antigens,
like the flu vaccine.
Yeah,
basically.
And there's
you're getting little bits of the flu.
Yeah,
basically,
and they do it, and they find different vectors to basically present it. So the way the mRNA, they basically they inject you with the stuff that tells your body to make the actual protein. It's I know people are listening to going, that's some crazy shit.
Yeah.
But
that's what everybody's talking about, is like, because it's that type, they're like, it's attacking your brain, your fertility. Right. Like it's not a real vaccine. They're worried, not because everybody's so pushy on it. There's just so much.
I understand why people are hesitant. I would say, because it seems like this is new. So here's what the dialogue from the other side would say. This technology's been available for decades. We just haven't put it into play because we've had these other effective vaccines, and now was the perfect storm to have it actually work. I will say from a safety standpoint, they did go through the rigorous, huge, massive trials, and they did phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. And the reason that these things usually take a long time is because it takes time to recruit. It takes a lot of money, and it takes more events. You actually have to have more people develop these diseases to be able to statistically power to have it. So for example, like let's say like polio or whatever. You don't even see it anymore. To where how would you even be able to?
Right.
You have to give it to someone.
So
you have to create an outbreak to study it.
So because COVID it was the perfect time to just put this into warp speed. You could actually test it much quicker. So that's kind of the layman's explanation of how they were able to put this through. They didn't cut any corners. It was so much faster because of the pandemic they were able to do. And then, so from my eyes, I honestly think the technology is just genius. I think it's so cool because it's like, you're able to inject this stuff to have our body make the actual spike protein. Instead of sticking the spike protein into us, you can actually have our body make it. And then we develop an immune response to that. And now it's to me, I'm just like, it's so cool. Whereas other people are like, I'm not putting that shit in my body. I'm like, that's cool. Give me some injection. So it's just an interesting perspective how I understand why people are concerned, especially when it comes to their kids. Like, well, we're going to inject their kids with this new stuff. But I'll say from a purely like FDA clinical trial, it's massive. The safety profile has been pretty good. They're monitoring stuff afterwards. People are worried about like myocarditis and inflammation around the heart. True concern, but from actual COVID, the risk seems to be much higher from actually getting COVID than from getting the vaccine.
Especially if you already have those situations. If you're overweight or you have heart issues.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like, so I had a friend.
It's like for me, I would look at you and go, you're super healthy.
Yeah.
You're young. You're lean. You don't have any sort of the high markers that, that if you did contract COVID, it's not going to kill you.
Low risk. I mean, it's possible, but very low risk. Very low risk. There's the things that I'm concerned about, the kind of these longer COVID symptoms. Mm-hmm. Some people, I've had some friends who are fit like me. They're short of breath all the time, and they just feel like tired.
That's weird. I was literally telling her the other day after I got healthy from it. I was down for about a month.
Yeah.
The doc said I had bronchitis, but it was a little bit. It was extra. I was having some like fever and chills, but with no fever.
Oh, okay. It was kind of hot and cold.
It was super weird. I would get like sweaty, and then I'd be cold, but my body temperature. Anyways, it was definitely something along those lines. It was one of the things. But anyways, I don't know where I was going with that. I was just telling you something.
A month.
You said you feel better than you.
Oh, I feel great.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that I did do, which I'm a huge component of, is glutathione.
Okay.
So
proponent. Remember, he said you're not a component.
You are. You might be a component of it.
I might be a component of it. Proponent. So I did a big IV cocktail, and then I put 20, did a push of 20 milligrams of glutathione.
And nandrolone.
And nandrolone, some little bit, and sprinkled some tren. Sprinkled some tren in there. But that's always been a big thing. And I have some lung issues coming from Iraq and Afghanistan.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
So glutathione's just when I did my first round of that, it was like I could breathe for the first time. So I don't know if that was it or if I just got sick and got over it. But man, after post getting sick, I felt like great. But then Pete, the CEO of Origin, he said that he had some he got sick. He didn't get the vaccine. He said he had some like lingering cognitive issues.
So that's what they're seeing in the younger folks. So that's why I'm like, man, I don't care. Just shoot me up. I'm not.
And you're not worried about it. The protein, any sort of brain stuff.
There's a risk. There's a risk of I mean, it's very low.
But you're already healthy and you've got a good heart and.
Yeah, I'm much. I'm not even necessarily worried. If I got COVID, it would be post-mortem, you're watching this and I'm dead from COVID.
We'll make a meme.
Yeah. Please make a meme in my honor.
In your honor.
So I did a podcast before the vaccine was available, and I was like, look, I'm not, if I got COVID, very certain I would survive and be fine.
Yeah,
right?
of course.
And I think most people in my position would be.
Yeah.
Do I think people need to worry about it? No, but I don't even want it. I don't even want the flu. I don't want any. I hate it when I get a cold from my kids. I am like,
I'm a baby.
I'm like, forget it. I'm like, I can't even go work out for a week. So like, I would rather get this, after I guarantee I'm going to start getting a headache and probably a little bit of a, it's for a day. And even still I could go work out if I wanted to.
Yeah.
But like, I'd rather take that than, it's just so stupid, but for a week, be held out for a week or two from working out.
And that's for down for a month.
Yeah. And so I'm that much sure in the data and looking at this, I'm okay with it. But again, I completely understand why people are like, what is this?
Do you think that it's okay do you think it should be and I really don't want to put you on the spot, but
yeah, no, you can put me on.
Do you think it should be a choice? Do you think people should have a choice? I think they should
line people. The AT4.
Should line people up right here.
Yes.
No, do you?
No. It's a great question. It has to be a choice because if I don't know how to. So like if a mandate from like it's the military, you don't have a choice. So then what? They didn't rebel. They didn't throw go on strike.
No, there's a lot of people.
People are pissed. Though.
Yeah. They're losing a lot of people, which is scary on a different level. That's a different conversation.
So schools, you have to be vaccinated with all sorts of things, not flu, but for all the standard things out there. Whenever I worked for a hospital, they didn't force me to get a flu shot. They highly recommend it, but I had to have titers for chicken, all these different things. So then it's kind of like, is this a slippery slope? And everybody should just get the COVID vaccine. I don't know if we can justify that. I think if we start, here's what I wish everybody would get it, and it wouldn't just have to be. But it would be your choice. Does that?
Yeah.
I know that sounds
that everybody would make the choice to do it.
I wish everybody would do that. We wouldn't have to force people. I think once you start, I think because here in the United States we value our freedom so much, then when you start forcing people to do it.
It causes problems.
Yeah. That's where I'm at. I just wish everybody would get it, but at the same time, I wish it didn't have to be forced. Yeah. Because I think we're getting into some interesting times. I don't know what's going to happen here, but
that's what I tell people: buy ammo and food.
I'm kind of worried.
Be in shape. I did a video about it. I said we're in interesting times, and I said for the weight loss thing, I said, man, listen, if you're overweight and you can't take care of your family and you can't be physically fit and if COVID taught you anything, it literally attacked. Like if you're overweight, it's harder on you.
Yeah, it's a
wake up.
Bit of a risk factor. Like there's lots of things. You probably should have asked me earlier because we could have gone for like an hour talking about this.
You're local now.
Yeah, local. We'll do a whole thing. But like, okay, so age is probably the biggest risk factor. If you're old, man, you don't want to get this. It's. You see 100-year-olds survive from it. It's but
drinking whiskey and eating steak, right?
Smoking. They don't give a damn. They're probably going to survive anything. They had some strong genetics,
right?
And then having overweight, obesity, whatever it is, it's another risk factor. But then it's more of those obesity-related diseases like type 2 diabetes, cardiac. Those things just massively increase your risk. Not as much, again, age is the sun. We can't even modify. I wish we could. Glutathione maybe. TRT and glutathione can reverse our age a little bit, so then maybe that's the key. But honestly, ideally, everybody would just be healthy, and that wouldn't negate the reason to get a vaccine, but it would probably decrease hospitalizations, and that's what we care. We care about death and hospitalizations, comorbidities.
I think the root. And I can't say for everybody, but I think for the normal people like yourself, I think that it comes from the best intentions.
I'm not normal.
Well, I mean, like people that can balance both sides of things that are, there's crazy people that are like, if you're not vaxxed, you should get kicked out of the country or whatever.
Right.
Like, like really, really crazy stuff. But I think that people that really do, like you just said, I think it comes from a good place. Yeah. I think it's like, we just want what's best for everyone. Yeah. But like you said, when you start taking away people's personal choice, that's when things get really dicey, as you've seen.
Yeah. So I mean, so I understand. Someone's like, I I don't trust this vaccine. Like, you're taking this, and you're like, what is this new stuff? So like, I get it. I understand.
What do you think? What do you think is going to happen with it in the next 5 years?
I think it's going to be endemic. I think at this point.
Really?
I think I'm probably going to have to get a yearly shot. They keep saying, well, it's probably going to be it's going to be a 3-shot series. I think it's going to keep mutating.
Do you think it will just become a normal thing?
Like the flu shot.
Like the flu
yeah,
shot?
I have a feeling it's going to be something like that.
But the what is the word? The intensity around it, you think that's going to fade?
Like the social anxiety.
Yeah.
Fear.
Yeah.
Fear.
I think it's already changed. Like in the beginning, it was bad.
Zombie apocalypse.
People.
Yeah.
Which, like 2 weeks to flatten the curve, all these different things. But so people were like, I'd go out in San Diego for a run. It was a ghost town. There was nobody on the.
That had to have been cool.
It was interesting. It was interesting. But I was like, I didn't even want to go into the stores. I'm like, I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah.
Like, that wasn't when it was before masks were even mandated or anything like that. Nobody knew what was going on.
And now my gym got raided. I don't know if you ever saw that.
They got raided?
By the cops, yeah.
Your gym?
Yeah.
Because we opened back up.
Oh, look at you guys, rebels.
Yeah.
Man. Big time.
Well, we got to wrap it up, Nick, but do you want to give him his...
Yeah, so let's do the. Well, hey, first of all, thanks for having that discussion and like giving your point of view. And anybody that trashes him online, you fucking choke yourself.
Oh, I'll definitely. I'm sure it'll happen. That's fine. As long as it's all in good nature. Sorry,
Right?
beta cuck. Whatever.
All right, so listen, our company here, Johnny Slicks. This is what we like to do. So is these are yours to take home.
Nice.
Now what this is just so you know, maybe you can appreciate this. This is an all organic, truly not all natural.
All right.
Because formaldehyde's natural.
All right.
So this is all
Perfect.
organic products that are all American sourced and everything, and American made. And so this is clay pomade.
All right. Let me see how. Is this like some thick stuff here?
Yeah. Oh, you got them all clay.
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
I got him an oil base and then one clay.
So you got him black label. Oh, you definitely played to his age.
Yeah.
Oh, what is that? The older?
So that's clay. So that's gonna be like a harder hold. Like if you go on a date,
hold.
it's a real strong hold.
Harder's better. Right?
Yeah, hard's always better. And then this is the oil base. So this is not as a hard hold. But man, you can put that on everything.
Ooh, yeah.
Your calluses.
Nice.
So I need you to smell it though and tell me.
Oh yeah. I like that.
So if you're over 30, these are your scents. So
Rugged.
we have
Omega.
sold enough to figure out what
Wait,
age groups.
why is that?
I have no
We
idea.
did a study.
Yeah, we did a
Smells
controlled study.
That's
Actually, we
good.
did a little bit of a controlled study. So that is, I think those are.
They both smell. They both smell really good.
No, that's original. So that if you're under 30, people tend to gravitate towards
Okay.
this. If you're over 30, they gravitate to these two.
This one. I wonder why that. Because this is a little bit subdued. That's a little bit more like the Abercrombie.
Yeah, the generation.
Wow, that I never heard it put that
Nailed it.
way. Yeah. And then there's
Shave
your
soap.
shave soap.
Shave soap.
We did a great video about that. I'll have to send it to you about dads and their sons shaving and what masculinity truly is.
All right. Perfect.
So
And then shampoo, conditioner,
that's
body
like
wash.
old school shave soap though.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice.
And then hair
what-
stuff. And then that is
All right.
your body wash, shampoo, and conditioner.
All right. What do these smell like? Same.
Those are all original, I believe, as
You just
well.
unscrew
Oh,
them.
it has the same.
But FYI, they are
Oh, kinda
they
similar.
come out black.
Like
Well, the
Like
conditioner
because the
doesn't.
charcoal. No,
So
the
this
soap.
has walnut shells and charcoal in it.
walnut shells.
Yeah, so Johnny realized, my business
That's-
partner realized
good.
that men don't use loofahs. Well, maybe you do, Spencer.
I don't.
You don't?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm like I'm like, you're like, give me the COVID vaccine, give me every vaccine, give me away from bacteria. I don't like bacteria laden sponges. I don't like loofahs.
okay, so he knew guys don't
Yeah.
do that, so he put walnut shells in there as like a
Scrubbing.
as a scrubbing
Yeah, nice.
mechanism for the body wash.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
And do you remember that commercial? But Ironhead, what's with this thingy? Don't you
Yeah.
remember that?
Yeah.
Ironhead.
So Anyway, so yeah, we make that all here in North Carolina, and then we ship it out of here.
Oh, this is nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, I can't wait. My wife's gonna be like, "Oh, you're not gonna."
Oh, she's gonna take the shampoos and
Oh, yeah.
all that.
You'll get
for
that
sure.
third kid you've been waiting for.
Oh, my
Oh, speaking of these products, we have 12 confirmed pregnancies by people using these products. So
yeah?
if you're not fixed, I don't know.
Is there? You guys putting some androgel in these things?
No, it has something to do with
The fragrances.
The fragrances.
Pheromones. You're putting.
The pheromones in them. Yeah, Johnny's dropping pheromones in them.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
That's perfect. Thank you guys.
yeah. I'd be interested to see. But anyways, we'll put this all on there and put all your information. Go follow the Meme Doctor. What is your Instagram? Which it's being lower thirds.
Yeah, at Dr. Nadolsky. DrNADOLSKY.
There it is. That's episode for season 3. What episode is this? 4? That's episode 4, 004. Thanks, man. All right, guys. You guys know the deal. Screenshot this. Tag us both. We'll share it on our social media, and then go leave us a review. And we'll see you on episode 005.